British. I apologize if
Thank you for interrupting. Hello, everyone. I'm here with the British Inquisition, Josh Valancourt, Anarcho Rand, and American Mick.
Nearly doxed.
Yes. The British Inquisition and American Mick, I think, have shown some interest in maybe starting their own channels. So would you like to introduce yourselves? British, you can go first.
I am the British Inquisition. Well, that's the name I'm going under. I'm a British chap, as you might have guessed, who is rather depressed with the current politics of our country. And since a lot of the channels seem to be in America, I thought I'd add another British voice to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it from me.
What sort of videos would you want to make? What topics would you like to discuss?
I'm thinking mainly political. I might do some ones relating to science, especially biology, if I can work that in.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And American Mick.
Well, I had a channel for a little bit, but I haven't posted anything in a year. So I'd like to try to revitalize myself, and this probably means trying a new perspective and topic on things. I've been moved more towards the traditionalist side of things, so I'm going to try to introduce that new voice. One of the first videos, this is one of the first topics I'd like to do, which is how universal suffrage is bullshit. Sorry.
Starting out bold.
It is.
Spoiler warning.
Sorry about that. Other topics like that. Though I might talk about the literature too.
Okay, cool.
Look at the stuff about that.
Yeah. And then Josh and Anarcho are they're part of they're second tier parts of the traditionalist community. Now people don't actually like me using that term either, because when you start making a community super defined, people you become an easy target. So it's just I think a better thing to do would be talk about the idea of traditionalism rather than the community of traditionalists.
Traditionalist alliance, maybe.
No, I think just say this is an idea that we're interested in or we think is good, rather than saying we are all.
Proponents.
Then it's I think Distributist made a good point on this in that he said let's say we go along this line and say there's a traditionalist community and some autistic person or somebody that's sort of very toxic starts to makes really bad videos and then claims that they're part of the community, and then people can sort of point to them and go, oh, look at this person, this is traditionalism. And I think that's sort of just cancerous. And I think just obviously this is a legit community.
So basically what I do.
Yes. You made a great video, even though you were drunk, Joshua, on the Prussian innovation.
No, I was sober that video.
What?
I was sober that video. I was drunk, and the one that I set to private. I'm remaking it though.
Mm.
So I guess I'm just gonna declare that I'm gonna tell people what I do. I make pretty much super off the cuff stuff, not scripted out. So Fritz will spend 2 weeks and polish a video, and I'll just start saying stuff.
Yeah, I have to script my stuff. People, it ranges for people. It's some people can do stuff off the cuff really well and easy. I sort of I really need to I'm a much better writer than speaker, so I just sort of I write up a script everything I'm gonna say and make it really nice and detailed, and I almost never go off script. I might go a few words or a sentence maybe, but usually it's just read very carefully off of the script, just like a good politician.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Marco Rubio.
Little Marco.
Yeah, I feel the same way. If you look at my don't look at my channel, by the way, but if you do, the videos you'll notice are very off the cuff, and they suck. And so that kind of stopped me. The only video that I ever wrote a script for, which is probably the only one that I'm not going to set to private after I put up my voting rights video, is about why I think hate is still important. And the reason why I wrote that is because I feel like all this political correctness stuff will eventually end in people just accusing each other of being mean, and that will be enough to shut down speech. So
I think we're already seeing that happen.
Yeah, we're
yeah,
already kind of there almost in many places, I think.
I know
We
it's
saw that in
sad.
Evergreen, like
This
a
is-
literal hostage situation because someone was slightly mean.
No, somebody said, hey, you know how you're saying all people of a certain race are not allowed to come to school now? I think that's a bad idea. I'm going to come anyways. And they said, you're evil and the Nazi, even though they're talking to a Jew. But like, this is essentially...
Those Jewish Nazis are my favorite.
This is what essentially the people that are liberals, like they say they're classical liberals, even though they're not, because being, these people are almost entirely like secularist atheists. And I can tell you what John Locke thought about atheists. He says they should not be tolerated in a liberal society. And he said, like, but in any case, like, if they are liberal, the thing is, right now, like, it's like we need to advance and reinvigorate liberalism. It's not going to.
I like how you're like subconsciously doing like a Sargon of Akkad, Richard Dawkins thing.
But it's just like
I would actually.
I'll finish the point first. Is that it's like right now, like liberalism thrives and can like exist perfectly fine in like a society that has a high amount of stability and prosperity. When people are literally at their throats killing, over who they voted for, and everyone's calling each other essentially Satan, essentially just pure evil. I don't think liberalism works, and this might be a sign that liberalism is breaking down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would. My thought is perhaps that liberalism is something that's good at first after another system when you still have other sort of values in place beforehand. You still have the sort of links to the community, but then it starts to become more and more about the individual until it's kind of there's no doing anything for anyone but yourself. If you see what I mean?
Well, that's why I think there's a lot of credence to the idea that people argue now that anarcho-capitalism and hard libertarianism is sort of the natural. That's the sort of natural endpoint and a pure embodiment of classical liberalism. Because if you're going to believe that everything should be relegated to the individual and that the use of force against people for almost any reason is not acceptable, it's pretty easy to see how one would come to the conclusion that government is evil and that there should be absolutely no restrictions on people's behavior.
That's one logical conclusion. The other logical conclusion, if you go with egalitarianism, would be something along the lines of Marxist communism.
Yeah. And that's why I think, like, I just talk about this in my traditionalism video, but the fact that, like, I think it's the hardest thing about the idea of traditionalism, right, is that it's not, like, liberalism or Marxism or progressivism or, like, fascism. They are, like, new ideologies that sort of that are very distinct, and they had to be sort of argued by, philosophers, by people like, Rousseau or John Locke, or in Marxism's case, Karl Marx and whatnot. But like traditionalism essentially is just like, this is almost the default of society. And I don't be careful there, but just like, this is essentially like, if we were living, like I say in the video, like 13th century medieval France, like we wouldn't be like considering, okay, we live under traditionalists. We'd be thinking like, no, we are traditionalists. The entire society operates under these certain premises, right?
We would literally just think we live in the world.
Yeah, it wasn't so much like. Sorry, what?
No, I was just going to say they probably wouldn't be considering like alternate political possibilities at all. If you see what I mean.
Exactly, because this was until the Enlightenment, the idea that you're going to live in a society in which there is like various political ideologies competing with each other just didn't exist, because first off, like the vast majority of people were uneducated enough, and like in the Middle Ages, like the average like interaction you would have had with the state. And even the state was a very, very loose concept, because you had feudalism, in that you had your local lord. Like the state essentially was, okay, there's the lord, his family, and 5 guys with swords that are there to protect him. And like, and then there was still political power, but it was much more in the hands of like the church or guilds, and even then, like again, for the vast majority of people, like the interaction you had with government was almost nothing, because you just lived on your little farm. You did what the king or your local lord would take a portion of it, go to church, and that's about it. But like, and again, of course, this is an era also because prior to having parliaments and assemblies.
It was very very
Well, I
hierarchical.
think this is like I think this is something like forget that really highlighted in Pilgrim's Progress is that like an excess of rules brings death, and that's sort of like people were mostly happy probably because they didn't have like a heavy interaction with the government, whereas like I get like 7 pieces of letter from the government every month, or seven pieces of mail, and it's like that's like a constant interaction with like a highly regulated society, and I think that's ultimately toxic.
And thinking like along those lines are like a better version of anarcho-capitalism, or a better version of libertarian, I think, is that not so much. It's sort of like what I was talking about, the fact that you still need organizations and institutions that govern and run societies. You can't just have everything based down up to the individual, because it doesn't work. But you can have alternative institutions that aren't the state. Like it used to be, you would have the state, you had the state, you'd have the guilds, you'd have the churches. And I think that's a better system because it's further decentralization of power. And this is something that sort of existed for a long time that rulers had to contest with in Europe, which is the estates. You'd have to deal with, okay, their power was very, very limited. It was checked by the fact that you'd have like in the game Europa Universalis 4. I know it's a game, but like this does sort of reflect a lot of the reality that you'd have to deal with the clergy, with the clergy as an estate, or the nobility, or the burghers. The sort of free, independent people that lived in cities and towns. And I think that's a much better check on government than like just writing it into a constitution, because it's like, who's going to check the government? Other parts of the government.
Yeah, that's a load of crap. It's actually kind of interesting you talk about decentralization, because the thing that ultimately, or at least this is what I think, the thing that ultimately kickstarted modern America is the fact that the church and the monarchy in England basically combined into one thing, and the people who didn't like that left. So,
well, really, I mean, the early pilgrims and people who went to America were they were the separatists that wanted to essentially set up a theocracy. But I took classes on this, and I know a lot about that period of England. The Tudor period and the 17th century up to the Glorious Revolution. The fact that I think it was largely both because of the fact that they wanted to set up a society the way they wanted to run it religiously, and because of the fact that there was so much instability. I mean, my own ancestors, I'm mostly of English descent, they left England. They were a minor noble family. They left England for America in the 1630s.
Damn.
Wow. What else? Oh, British. So, because you're our local Brit, so what do you make of the election that just happened?
The first thing I would say is I think the main thing that went wrong was the Tory manifesto, which it seemed almost designed to alienate as many people as possible. For any animal rights activists, they wanted to bring back fox hunting. They had the scheme to potentially take homes from the elderly to pay for their care, which was based on the price of the house, not how much money, not their actual assets otherwise, because a lot of people bought houses when they were much cheaper, and all their houses have gone up in price. They don't have much assets aside from that. And also, what was the other thing that annoyed a lot of people?
The dementia tax?
Yeah, that.
That might be. There was something else as well. I can't think what it was now. Well, there was the whole.
It's not so much that the Conservative Party didn't have a lot to run on, but like the thing that was more surprising though was like what attracted so many people to Labour this time.
Oh, I know. I look at Corbyn. It's not just Corbyn, but his party. It's like this sort of highly socialist. You got him, not him, several members of the party actually sort of praising communist dictators, including Diane praising Chairman Mao as this great person. You know, if you ignore all the millions who died, you know, he did wonders for China. You've got links to the IRA. You've got Corbyn calling Islamic terrorist groups his friends. It's there is nothing that would make me want to vote for him. You've got the undermining our national defence by saying, "Oh no, he wouldn't. In the event of a nuclear assault against Britain, he wouldn't retaliate."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think on top of that is the idea that actually I remember this. It's like I was watching. There's like an conservative Anglican sort of a YouTube channel. They have like a podcast, and they're one of them is an American Anglican priest, the other is a British one, and they were talking about this a couple days ago, and I love the way the British Anglican priest put it. He's just like, Jeremy Corbyn reminds me a bit of like Forrest Gump, and that because of all the behind all the stupidity, or in all the naivety and stupidity, there's something sort of beautiful and innocent about it. I still think it would be. I know it would be horrible, but it would still be hilarious if he became prime minister. Just to see, like, how on earth would he interact with Donald Trump?
Oh, geez. Well, at least you didn't win, at the very least.
At least now, apparently, if people are in favor of Brexit, it almost seems like it's actually a better position now, because now with the coalition with the Ulster Unionists, the Ulster Unionists are like even harder for Brexit.
No matter who won, Brexit lost.
Well, no, I don't know. I think Brexit's still going to happen. It's just, thing is, I know Theresa May didn't say she's going to step down, but I wouldn't be surprised if they sort of force her to resign, because
I'm expecting major concessions.
I'm kind of dubious, because even with that coalition, it's such a narrow margin. It seems like it'll be very easy for it to either be undermined or just fall apart completely.
Mm-hmm. Yep. British, if you want to solve the Jeremy Corbyn problem, what you want to do is have people reread Road to Serfdom by Hayek, or at least just the preface, because the Labour Party was pretty much the same way back during like the back during that interwar period between the Cold War and
the 20s and
World
30s.
War II. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
And how they are now. Like back then, they were just straight up socialists and communists. And if you want to know what made Britain suck for that like early part in like the 50s and the 60s, it was the fucking Labour Party. Like sorry about my swearing, but they were straight up just socialists and communists. I'd also like to apologize, since you mentioned the IRA, that my profile picture is just a straight up it's just straight up like 1919 IRA looking.
The thing about the Irish independence is that the thing I find so interesting about that, because like I've listened to the IRA had a lot of the good songs, but they were still horrible people.
Yep.
And like but the thing is, like, it's like the thing I find funny is that it seems if you actually look at the early Irish independence from like the 17 and 1800s, they were mostly founded by Protestants.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, like a Theobald Wolfe was a Protestant, Napper Tandy was a Protestant, a bunch of other people. Like there's a whole like Irish independence song called Protestant Men about all the Protestants who helped fight for Irish independence. Like, okay.
That's true. I was going to say that I hope you could, British, I hope you can be okay in the knowledge that the era of the look I'm taking after of the IRA is that immediately after independence they started shooting each other. Well, after reading the history of the IRA, just because I felt a heritage calling, because I'm incredibly Irish as far as ancestry goes.
Aren't you Protestant though?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
Uh,
interesting.
I have a graveyard in Northern Ireland. My
Hmm.
family name is on a graveyard in Northern Ireland.
Oh, you're
so-
Northern Irish then.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I don't know. Still, there's something about the green. Green looks better than orange. How do I put that? Anyway, but the thing is though is that
And red looks better than all of them.
yeah, but I was gonna say that after reading the history of the IRA, it's like it's like I could kind of see where they would want the independence stuff, but after they shot Michael Collins, I've lost every single sympathy they had for them after reading that history. Because at least
somebody put something in the chat. They said the majority of Irish Americans are Protestant. It's true.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, otherwise, they if they were Catholic, they couldn't leave because they had all their assets pretty much disposed of by Cromwell. So
Cromwell didn't do nothing.
Cromwell didn't do nothing.
No, but I think no, he was a little after my ancestors left. Yeah, I don't want to totally. I'm not going to give my last name away, but like basically my ancestry, because we had this, it's minor nobility, like knights, and it could be traced back all the way to the invasion of Normandy.
Okay.
And so my ancestors were Normans that invaded England, and basically they ruled over this tiny little parish, like south of London on the coast, for about 600 years. And like they fought in the 100 Years' War. The 100 Years' War. That's what it was. And like I think I don't know if they fought at Agincourt, but like at some point, like on my family crest, they have like there's a castle because one of my ancestors helped seize a castle from the French, and the king, King of England gave him the right to like have a castle on it. And then for another deed, and it's the reason why we have a goose on our coat of arms is because the king let him have goose hunting. I just love the idea of like, to just put these symbols on just because you can hunt geese now, but we're just gonna make it. It's because you have to remember this is a time when most people can't actually read, so you just have to have pictures.
I hadn't thought of it like that.
My family heritage, I somehow because of the there's two versions of McGarrel. There's like Scots Irish, and then there's just regular Irish. The regular Irish one is like two lions looking a sword, and we kicked Vikings out of Ireland apparently. Yeah,
I hate the Vikings. Like I don't know why people like praise them so much. Like I really hated that History Channel show because it was just like celebrating Vikings just murdering Christians and pillaging stuff.
Yeah, that bothered me too.
I want them to make a show about Alfred the Great. Or the Irish reconverting England to Christianity.
I suspect it's one of the things where it's kind of the just the look of the thing, and just the general things associated with it have become more prominent or more important to people than the actual history, if you see what I mean. It's
of the Vikings.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Just like just for people how like the visual image of how they dress. They pretty like the sort of the idea of we'll storm out in our longboats and conquer them. The sort of general hero, almost hero feel, that sort of.
Mm-hmm. It's like
more symbolism, but
keep going.
No, just they kind of the raping and pillaging stuff is kind of lost.
Yeah.
Well, I love this. Is like there's a great meme I saw where it's like a Viking screaming at a Christian, like, oh, Christians are terrible because they're pacifists. Like, they don't fight. You're not real men or anything like that. But then the second slide is like, how dare those awful Christians murdering those innocent Vikings?
Yeah.
To pick one. Well, that's actually, you don't have to, because like in G.K. Chesterton's book, Orthodox, he basically actually starts, he basically frames it so that like he turns the idea that there's paradoxes in Christianity. How it's like, how are Christians both, like Christianity is praised for being both too violent and too pacifistic, and he goes, because Christianity is a paradox in a lot of ways, and just because those are two, it has both those elements doesn't mean that's actually a good thing.
Yes. I was just about to say about the Vikings that the only people who were able to successfully keep, the only Vikings that were able to successfully keep England under their control, and by Vikings I mean Northmen, or
Normans.
Norsemen, they had to be Christian in order to do that.
Well, yeah, they get like
They
a
were-
blessing from was either the Pope or the King of France to do that.
They were also extremely devout.
Mhm.
Like after they killed a lot of English people and salted some of the fields, they decided to build these really good-looking churches. Speaking of speaking of the blessing of priests, did you know that in the tapestry of what's it called?
Bayeux?
Yeah, the tapestry of Bay. Fucking French words. Anyway, the
Oh,
tapestry of Bay.
Zitalo.
The tapestry of Bayeux has a part where you see a guy swinging a club. That guy is supposed to be a priest. He's fighting. The thing is that he has a club because it was not allowed for priests to shed blood. So what he did was use the club to just break people internally so they wouldn't shed blood.
Yeah, that sounded almost like he's like gonna use psychological warfare. He's gonna use skepticism to break them.
Oh God.
I think
It's a very weird idea. People almost like a priest trying to be a rules lawyer when it comes to
look, God, it's like, look, God, God only looks for stuff in the details. Yeah, it's like he doesn't care about your actual intentions. No, it's all about like, it's all legalese,
That's Catholicism for you.
Catholicism. Ooh, salt.
Legalism. Yeah.
So, Mick, what type of Protestant are you? What kind of Protestant are you?
Presbyterian.
Oh, that's what I used to be. I was originally Baptist, and then I became just because that church we were going to. I was baptized in the American Baptist churches, and then we left because there was nobody at my age at that church to a Presbyterian one, and I'm still technically a member, but recently, because sort of the same thing happened as all of my church friends sort of moved out, and I'm still living in my hometown. I'm now going to an evangelical Baptist one. And now I think this Sunday I'm actually just just to see what it's like. I want to attend an Anglican church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think we're tricking the Catholics because it's like, how do you move to different churches?
Actually, I have a relative who's like who's part of I guess you could call it evangelical, but they call themselves denominational. But it's closer to what you're doing. But one of like a couple churches that she goes between because she likes to do media stuff with the different churches. Really, so she's part of these different denominations. Only one of them has a problem with it, and it's the same one where the guy basically has like this Italian guy who's like sort of almost like a mafia sort of person. And like a bunch of strongmen around him. I'm like,
Wait,
this is
church.
This is the other part of this. This is the other part of religion that people don't like, I guess.
Wait, is this at a Catholic church or Protestant one?
It's not Catholic. It's some kind of denominational thing.
Okay.
It's one of those. I think it's one of those churches, if I can recall, where it's like, it's a denomination that relies on the preacher and not so much the doctrine.
That's a big problem with a lot of evangelical churches I see is that like you can have as great a worship leader or a pastor as you want, but the thing is like what happens when they're gone? It's like, does the whole church just completely collapse? Or because with my church, back in September, the guy who basically helped contemporize it, like got contemporary music and got did all these new strategies that got it to grow really fast, but they didn't change any of the doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
He moved on in September. And the new guy, he's okay. He sounds a little too. He's sort of frighteningly too much like a Joel Osteen. Not that bad, but like he's a Southerner, and so that just triggers some people. But like he's fine, and the church is not suffering because of the. I mean, obviously we missed the other guy, but like the church is still doing fine. But my thing about Protestantism is I'm starting to look at it. I'm thinking I know the evangelicals essentially got kicked out in the 20th century when the SJWs took over the mainline Protestant churches. But like, I think what we should have been doing is instead of saying, "Hey, all the traditions are really terrible." I mean, obviously, a big part of it is like, okay, we can't afford to build a nice, giant, centuries-old church now. But like, I don't know, completely rejecting all the traditions is not a good idea. I think, and that's why essentially, like, I like the Anglican Church because it's like the best way I've heard Anglicanism described is it looks Catholic, but it sounds Protestant.
Yeah, that's about right.
It's like you'll have like archbishops and bishops like wearing and priests that look very Catholic, and like they'll be saying homilies and all this stuff. But like, but then they'll like be going talk about their wife and like the current because the church I want to go to it's part of the Anglican Church in North America, which in 2009 they broke away from the Episcopalians because they went way too SJW. And like the current leader is a guy by the name of Foley Beach, and he's just like this sweet Southerner. Like he just has like he's like a Southern man from Georgia, but he looks like the Pope.
You really are like a Southerner at heart, aren't you?
Upstate New York is a bit like that. It's like
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Are you from upstate?
No, I know of it though. I
Okay.
know the history of it. That it was basically this it was like this hotbed of Protestant religion sometime in like the early America.
And it was,
like,
I recently researched it today. It was called the Burnt Overs District because there were so many evangelists and like open air revival congregations like for so many years. Basically, it's like there's nobody left to convert. Like there's no fuel left to burn. Like everyone's evangelized now. And then,
man, what a problem to have! I wish I had that.
My favorite.
Go ahead.
My favorite guy from the region is in every single
Joseph
depiction
Smith.
of him. He is he the no not Joseph. Is it Joseph Smith, the guy with the lazy guy?
No, Joseph Smith is the Mormon. He's the guy who founded Mormonism.
Okay, that's what I thought. But
Charles Finney, are you thinking of?
I think so. I just like that guy because he looks funny and all the
His beard.
all the depiction because he has like this lazy eye.
No, I think that was Jonathan Edwards.
Let me. All right, I guess I have to check this.
And then, like, you look at George Whitefield. Well, Jonathan Edwards, I think he was from England. And then same thing was like George Whitefield. They were part of the first Great Awakening, not the second. But like, yeah. George Whitefield has a massive forehead too. Forrest Whitaker. But yeah, I think that evangelicals we should try and actually tap into the sort of Great Awakening and like the early roots of evangelicalism because it does exist. It's just like our movement didn't start. The thing about I think the evangelical movement right now is that it used to be, as I described it, like basically refresh and sort of reinvigorate like a dying church. Like in the early 1800s, there was the whole problem is because of the Enlightenment, like a huge amount of the population in churches were basically preaching deism, like that. Basically, they'd become heretical, and they were just not really. They were very languid, and they weren't really caring about Jesus Christ. They were just talking about, oh, God is the clockmaker, and he didn't really care about us. And you basically had people start screaming, no, and like attempts to get back. But nowadays, like when the one that started in the 40s and 50s with Billy Graham, like the problem is that happened at a time when, there was still a Christian culture in America, but now we're in a period where it's not. And so you can't really just revitalize the churches. You need to actually plant new ones now. Well, I think we've talked long enough. I think we should end the stream now. No, I'm kidding. What else should we talk about, though?
So you mentioned your family crest. I was curious if anyone else knew what their crest looked like.
I've absolutely no idea.
This is only for the most autistic people to know, I guess.
I learned of my crest because my grandmother, at my grandmother's house, the same relative, she's an artist and she painted the crest on the garage. So that's how I knew about it.
My grandma, I wish we had more of her stuff, but my grandmother, she died in 2015. She was an artist her whole life. Like she was a really good potter, and like she had a whole studio. Like when she came to live with us for a few years, like we built this big addition onto our house, and on the side of the garage they built a little pottery studio that we used. And Like a lot of it is just like making stuff very delicate and intricate stuff with like nature patterns and like putting make like bowls with like these nice bowls with like leaf imprints in them, and they're all colorful. It's really, really cool. We still have some of them, of course, but most of it's sort of been sold to other people.
Oh, what's the fate of art for you?
Not relating to crests. Going back to a point America made about the Labour Party in not in the 20
like it was like 40s 50s kind of area.
I think it was that period that that they were praising. It was when they were praising communist Russia, and they were extolling how great the Russians were and how amazing their prisons were, how nice and how
they were amazing.
Yeah, but they were basically ignoring all the information to the contrary because they wanted just to praise the idea of communism.
I think a bit of it though, a lot of it has to do, especially in the 40s, is because the US did a lot of the same thing where we during the war, because we were allies, we depicted Joseph Stalin as Uncle Joe. We tried to make it, we humanized him and just made him very like, oh, he's Uncle Joe. He's the great leader of Stalin. We love the Russians.
I completely agree with Patton. We should have kept going.
Wait,
we should have kept pushing to Germany.
Should we have allied with the Nazis in the first place to get rid of
the
that almost it really scratches your noggin, doesn't it? It's like, should we who was actually worse? Who was going to kill more people, the Nazis or the communists?
I think it's worth remembering that at the start, the communists weren't nearly as much as of a threat. It was because Stalin actually was terrified of Germany. He thought the German army was vastly superior. And
the weird thing though is that when the Germans invaded in 1941, he couldn't believe it was happening. Like he was in safe shock for weeks, but I think the reason actually why an argument I would use for why it was better to go after the Nazis than the communists is because I think the Nazis actually had an economic system that probably would have been stable.
So they could have gotten away with it.
You can't really contain Nazi. You can't contain you can't really use the doctrine of containment because you just pressure the communist countries until eventually their economies fall apart. Oh no, the Germans actually have a their standard of living have skyrocketed since the Nazis took over. We can't.
Yeah,
we can't go just with this.
Well, not only that, but fascism depends on expansion and acquiring more territory.
And it was really effective at doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Nazis would have been as well. I mean, the thing is, both the Nazis and the communists essentially were intent on taking over the world. It's just externally they may have been able to. They took over a huge portion of the world's population in China and in Russia and Eastern Europe.
And keep in mind, the Japanese were basically fascists as well. And they took over most of the Pacific.
They were going to try to go for Australia eventually.
Mm-hmm. I think this is the thing is it would have been very interesting if it would depend on when this happened. What if immediately after the surrender of Germany, so in May of 1945, the U.S. Britain, and France go to war with the Russians. It would be very interesting to see if they did that before or after the surrender of Japan.
I bet we could get Japan on our side for that.
That's the thing. If they did it before the surrender of Japan, you could have said to the Japanese would have been, okay, now you're at war with this other country. You don't have the resources to keep fighting us. Let us keep a portion of our empire, and we'll fight with you against the communists.
Yeah.
Well, essentially, it would have easily won. Okay, I think you'd have a similar
also,
situation.
We had the bomb. And they didn't. Yeah. They didn't have enough bombs.
You would have a situation. I think also, if the U.S. was to go over with the Soviet Union in 1945 or very shortly after the war, a deal made with the remaining German military. Basically, I just imagine or I envision a bunch of the top German generals from the Wehrmacht saying, okay, we're not, we don't want to bring back the Nazis, but essentially we'll use our, our leadership and the remnants of the German army to help you fight the communists, but you have to let us have at least control over an independent German country.
Well, wasn't it in 43 after Patton got through Italy that he was like, let's go all the way to Russia right now.
Well, yeah.
Maybe that would have been. I think there was some idea that like instead of going into France to help, instead to actually circumvent the Nazis, actually like invade through the Adriatic and Greece and just push up north from there rather than having to go through France. So you basically get to Poland and Eastern Germany first before the Russians ever got there.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Go figure. The communist president wasn't on board with that.
Well,
So shocked.
yeah, FDR wouldn't have been on board with that, and I'm pretty sure that the British didn't really like the idea that that the channel was still going to be half Nazi, essentially. No, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, unfortunately, not only did we have a bad president with that, we would have had to make a compromise with the British anyway. No offense.
We can just take over England.
The result was terrible, though. We essentially could have, like, if the British had gotten out of line and said, no, we don't want to, we could have said, all right, we have huge amounts of aircraft there, naval, all these massive carriers and huge amounts of troops there. We could essentially just immediately occupy the whole country.
Look who's a colony now.
It's like what's happening with Pakistan. Britain is destined to be colonized by their former colony.
Wait, no, I'm not saying we had mass immigration of Americans to Britain.
I am. They need some help with voting.
No, I love this. It's like, it's been hilarious. It's like at the election, there's a hung parliament. Okay, Donald Trump says the Republican Party will help form a coalition with the Conservatives. We could have done it if we want to. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? We will absorb the United Kingdom to form the 51st state.
Do you know what I think? Do I think would have helped the Conservatives actually?
Not suggesting dementia tax.
No,
not being led by Theresa May.
No.
The status quo on fox hunting.
We should have. I think America. It's gonna sound really neoconservative. I'm gonna hate myself for it, but we should have been a little bit harsher on the European Union for their treatment of England during the exit talks, especially with the
we still have a chance.
The bill that was proposed, the exit bill that was proposed, like how big is that bill anyway?
I think it was something like 85 billion or something ridiculous.
Yeah, 85 billion.
What 85 billion to what?
Basically to pay the EU for the privilege.
Basically like a divorce settlement.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I were advising the president, I would have told him to go up to Merkel and say, "Look,
slapper,
you're going, worse than slapper. I would have said,
leave Britain alone."
No,
okay. Here's my proposal.
No. This is actually what I would want to say to Merkel. It's like, look, you're either going to make this a little bit more fair because it makes no sense to try to force a country that doesn't want to be in the union anymore to foot this huge bill that would try to prevent them from leaving it. If the whole thing is that they want to leave, don't try to keep them in there, because the most I'm going to go for defending Britain is to have America and possibly the Russians come in and burn Germany to the ground a second time.
What I would like is we just send one of our aircraft carriers over to like
the North Sea.
Channel, over to the channel and be like, hey, we think there should be a good Brexit deal.
Yeah, and Trump just goes, he's on the aircraft carrier. Goes, I just wanted to say, I think a good Brexit deal will be
gonna be the best deal. Believe me, huge. I have a say in it.
I'm confused because I didn't care because of the election, and also it's sort of, I think it's a boy who cried wolf syndrome. What the heck happened with Comey yesterday and everything? Who's more in trouble?
But the media's saying that a lot was said in it. What I got from the Comey thing. Oh God, I wrote a gigantic post on it. You
should make a video about it.
I should. Although it would kind of borrow too many points from Stephen Molyneux's video because I think he did a
Stefan
fantastic
Molyneux.
analysis of that. But basically, I think Comey kind of damned himself because he kept saying that that he kept telling Trump that he wasn't under investigation, but at the same time was obviously incredibly suspicious of Trump from the beginning. He basically kind of presumed that Trump was guilty very, very beginning. I mean, it was obvious he didn't trust the president at all, and was
You're only supposed to
obviously the
presume they're
leaker.
guilty if they're black. I mean, obviously.
No,
Donald Trump isn't black, though.
but he
Exactly.
He's
That's why
orange.
Comey was fired.
yeah.
So who is being claimed? Who has anybody broken the law?
Yes, Comey admitted to being a leaker.
Yes, there's that, and that whole thing about dropping Flynn. If you look at the real timeline of events, Trump asked Comey to kind of let him go after the FBI let him go.
Mhm.
After they went through the phone call and said, "Oh, there's really nothing bad here," Trump was like, "But please, don't pursue Flynn anymore after this." Because I think that should have been a signal from Trump to Comey that he's like, I know what you're doing, you politically motivated crook, you supposedly nonpartisan head of the FBI. Please just don't go after him like this.
Well, pretty
Comey-
much,
Sure, like
Comey would have gotten away with it if any other president had been elected.
yeah,
Like the nature of Trump being like a political outsider, like ruined Comey's career.
And that's
Also,
the thing is, like,
if-
when people talk about who else could have won the election, I think Justin Martin, another YouTuber, he made an excellent point that we all seem to be forgetting is that was there any other candidate who could have tapped into that lost demographic of people? Like
Obviously,
Trump did?
Jeb got him.
yep.
I'd be curious as to what would happen if America somehow had a hung parliament or a hung Congress, and that, like, let's say, like, I don't know, there's enough independent seats that neither the Republicans or the Democrats have a majority.
That would be beautiful. I want that to happen.
I always love those. It'd be like, what would have happened if, like, during the election, like, both Trump and Hillary if they both got 269 delegates?
The vice president will decide.
President.
Yeah.
Mm.
Doesn't the vice president decide if there's a delegate tie?
Oh wait, shit.
Well,
Joe Biden.
Is it the current vice president? Though? Otherwise, who do you just? You have to. It's a paradox. Otherwise, because you have to. The person who would be president is not decided yet, so you don't know who's going to be vice president.
Pence Kane boxing match to decide it.
Oh, Pence would destroy him. Thing is, Pence is like I love Steven Crowder referred to him as like he's like an older looking G.I. Joe.
He is.
Yes.
Yeah.
He would
Yeah.
destroy it.
He kind of he's
I love
almost
how-
kind of like
Go
he's
ahead.
kind of like that one guy from Metal Gear Solid 3, the guy with the silver hair and could shoot lightning out of his hands. Like him. Except the ironic thing is that the guy who could shoot lightning out of his hands was gay. That's a paradoxical metaphor if I've ever heard one.
It's like I love this. Like Mike Pence is essentially he is the religious right. He is the embodiment of the. He's like because he calls himself an evangelical Catholic. Like he's a member of the Catholic Church, but he goes to an evangelical church. It's like, and he's like
We should
social
get this movie
conservative.
to talk about that.
Yeah, he did the gay pizza thing. Remember, bake the gay pizza.
Wait, is pizza like a metaphor for like?
It's like a metaphor that the psychic vampires use to drain the blood of children.
Interdimensional.
Not the documents.
Psychic.
My favorite Alex Jones video is that one where the guy edited it so that Alex Jones had no nose and his eyes and his mouth are really close to his chin, so he looked like a thumb person. Has anyone seen that?
No, I know. If you could find it, please. I would love this. I saw this in a Discord thing. So there's a video. It's called Jordan Peterson on cocaine,
Yes, that was so good.
And it's like, so it's like, it's basically they edit together a video he did, lecture he did, and he talks about, like, fire will cleanse everything. That's what Hitler would have wanted.
And the
children, while being lovely, are also delicious.
There you go.
And it just shows him all the times he says,
Yeah, the channel
relatively speaking.
The channel that made that is Porden B. Jeterson, and it's really good.
I was thinking of making Yu-Gi-Oh cards for Jordan Peterson stuff. Like, I summon the Dragon of Chaos, and then like somebody like it tries to attack him, and he has a trap card. And, like, so, attack your life place directly. He flips the card over. Think again, sunshine.
No, there needs to be a Shadow Self trap card.
The ultimate trap card is archetypally flawed. Archetypally.
No, it's from the magic card is Jungian perspective. I use the Dragon of Chaos with the dominance hierarchy, and I make the archetypical the hero that's ascended all the dominance hierarchies of all possible dominance hierarchies. It's just the card is Jesus.
I just finished Modern Man in Search of a Soul. It was very good.
Mm-hmm.
7 out of 10 would recommend.
I'm trying to read more, but
Audible, baby.
All I've done is recently, as far as reading, is I went back to Lord of the Rings, and read it with this because I watched Jordan Peterson a lot. I looked at Lord of the Rings with a more existentialist kind of point of view, and I'm like, wow, it really works.
All right, do you want to be shot?
Silence your phone.
Sorry, it's my dad.
This is a movie theater.
That's the phone. Anyway, but I was gonna say that in particular, the themes of despair in Lord of the Rings really kind of make it like this like philosophically existential novel, because the people who are all the villains, who are of course aren't Sauron, are they all give in to despair in one way or another. Like Saruman kind of joins with it. He kind of gives up. He's like, well, I can't fight it, so I'm just gonna be with it. Theoden is made sick by it and just kind of lets it happen. He tries to work with it. And the Steward of Gondor is suicidal. So
yeah, and it's like even worse. I think even overall, there's a really sort of sad undercurrent as well, because the fact that they don't put this in the movie, but when Frodo and Sam get back, the Shire's been scoured by the forces of Sauron. Like, yeah, it's basically just like the beautiful English countryside is going to be destroyed, and there's nothing you can. And same thing, all the elves are leaving. Like it's like, even though Sauron is defeated, the elves still like we're leaving anyways, and just like it's like this is just that much more of the beautiful magic of the elves is now gone from Middle Earth.
Here's something that people don't really put into the this is something that Peter Jackson didn't really emphasize more in the movie, but that I think it was actually strangely mentioned in the Ralph Bakshi one, which people consider inferior. By the way, anyone who considers the Ralph Bakshi movie inferior is inferior themselves. Anyway,
where there's a whip, there's a way.
Yep. But I was gonna say that in the Ralph Bakshi version and in the books, it's said that once the One Ring is destroyed, all the rings of power lose their power, and that includes Galadriel, and it's mentioned in the scene of Galadriel's mirror in the Ralph Bakshi version.
Is that actually
and that's the reason,
books?
that's the reason why she says in the movie and the book that she passed the test, meaning that she resisted earthly temptations to keep the ring alive, and also the ability to take the ring herself. That now she basically she's able to escape Earth. Basically,
I love how. So wait, I'm confused. So is the thing with that about the other rings get destroyed or lose their powers? Is that actually in the books?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
The only problem with the books is like just from an actual literary perspective, not like in the story itself, but the first book is really a slog to get through. The second book is way easier, because it's just like the first book is they went to this small place, and then they went here, and then they went here, and then they walked, and then if you excuse me, I'm going to explain all the lore of this one part of Eriador for for a whole chapter.
Yeah,
but then
that's
not having Tom Bombadil, who is he is the most. They need to make a movie about him.
I wish. I
But,
always
like,
thought that Peter Jackson should produce a show about like the other stories of Lord of the Rings.
The Hobbit. Oh, bless him for trying again. This is how the corporate system screwed it, because it's like it just needed to be. You could have put it into one movie, you know, because the Hobbit
it was supposed to be made by a different guy too.
Mm-hmm. But it's like I think part of it though is like because all the actors are getting old. Like Ian McKellen is not long for the world, and of course Christopher Lee died just shortly after the last movie came out.
Yeah.
They wanted to get like all these other ideas that he had of wanting like from other sources of Lord of the Rings or from other Tolkien works, and they wanted to be able to put those in there before they ran out of time.
Yeah.
And it makes me sort of sad, speaking of it, is like I think like if anybody ever wanted to make like do a different like make their own version of the prequels of Star Wars, if they wanted to redo the prequels, the sad thing is that like the only problem is that like Ewan McGregor was like of all the mistakes of those movies, Ewan McGregor being Obi-Wan was not one of them. He was a perfect fit for that role.
Kind of actually cared.
Mm-hmm. I love this. All the people in the chat seem to be Catholic. We're all Protestant, and they're all shit posting in the chat. They're just going crazy.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a little peeved that the fact that since the Jackson films were made, it's like that's the only version of Lord of the Rings visually that can exist now forever.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like this cool culture you had where different artists put their own interpretation of Middle Earth.
It's like Harry Potter. It's like
I'm back.
It's like with Harry Potter, right? It's like you read the books and you have your this is almost for every story you read. It's like you have your own vision, like you visualize what you think the characters look like.
No,
like,
you got the order wrong. You read Harry Potter, then you become a Marxist.
Harry Potter fans are the most insufferable people in the world. You know how there's weeboos, like the people that are just like way too into Japanese culture, like me. You have I've come up with a term. It's called Brit boos, where it's like it's Americans that like they're way into like stuff like Sherlock and Doctor Who and Supernatural and Top Gear and Harry Potter.
I thought they were just Anglo-fags, but okay.
Anglophile.
Well, no, they're Tumblrites. That's what they are. Like I watched like 5 or 6 seasons of the new Doctor Who show, and then I'm like, wait a minute, this is horrible. This is awkward. God. This is super left wing, and like awful.
Just watch all the old stuff.
I tried. Yeah. Okay, I even tried that. On that end, it's terrible. It's like I watched like the original, the first episode, the ones from the 1960s. Where it's
don't watch those.
It's a senile old man and like a schoolgirl and her teachers like wandering around for it. Like
anime.
What's interesting on like about that first Doctor on like a character perspective is essentially the character is like a young person pretending to be old.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go to, I think it's the 11th Doctor, he's an old person pretending to be young. So it's a really cool 11 character bookending.
Mm-hmm. And then, but in any case, like I'm a much bigger fan of like MST3K.
Yeah.
Oh, you're one of those people.
I love that.
What do you mean like, those people?
I try to watch. Somebody recommended that I watch Red Dwarf. I'm like, this is horrible.
Yeah,
this is awful.
I can't get past that show for some reason.
It's because the main character is so whiny. His voice is just so high pitched and whiny. And
kind of like Fritz.
Yeah, no, kind of like Todd Lewis. No, that's mean.
Kind of like
I did like one joke I saw from that, and it's probably because it didn't involve the main character. It was like some guy and like some other vampire dude, and the vampire dude's trying to teach him how to say words in his language. And it's like, this is not how you pronounce the word. And it's like, what does the word even mean? It says, it's like some kind of alien word, like, and it's like, the word means when you get your sexual organs trapped in something. And he's like, because that's what it sounds like.
I've also been trying to watch.
Unclear.
I'm trying to get through Star Trek Next Generation. Like, it's good. Again, my problem with Star Trek, though, is that the world that Gene Roddenberry made, the future he envisioned, is a bloody nightmare.
Yes.
It's horrifying.
It
isn't
is.
It's like it's basically like John Lennon. This is like the progressives of the 50s and 60s. This is like their utopia. It's basically John Lennon's imagine of like, yeah, there's no religion, there's no human culture, everything's under one world government, there's total communism.
Mm-hmm.
The
It's
best thing about
horrible.
Imagine, he's like, imagine there's no heaven, then he describes heaven.
Yeah, he's trying to describe
kind of
heaven on
funny.
earth, and every time you do that, every time someone tries to make a utopia, it turns into
Damn
a
utopians are the
hell on
most
earth.
dangerous of all of you.
And
Imagine-
I love Ben Shapiro's like take down the song.
I haven't watched that. If I did, I forgot it. It would have been funny if John Lennon's Imagine was basically describing everything in Moore's Utopia. That
Which more? Who is it?
I think it's Thomas More. Thomas More's
Yeah.
Utopia.
Okay. Hey, Paul.
It's an old.
Paul, I heard you got fired from your job with Chris Reagan. Wait, different Paul.
Hey Paul, I heard you. I heard you got captured by the Romans. Oh wait, different Paul.
Hey, Paul. I really
I've
like your
still got my
letter.
head. I've still got my head.
Hey, Paul. I really like your letter to the Corinthians.
I've written a couple.
Yeah. Hey,
Hey Paul, how's the blindness
You've lost
going?
one. You've lost one of them. Lose one of them.
How do you feel?
I'm
How do
more
you
of an
feel?
Apollos fan myself.
Hey, Paul. How do you feel that 2,000 years from now, the head of one of the churches is going to say that you're a sexist? That's the Episcopal Church in America. Like their past leader, like said that St. Paul was a sexist.
I heard you shit talking Red Dwarf just before, man.
That's
Yeah,
you
what
just
am-
heard
okay,
it.
come at me.
Okay, Paul, say words. Hear that accent and look at your profile picture. Now change your profile picture. You have no right to use it. The British
Yeah,
Inquisition.
this is
has the right
cultural
thing going on.
appropriation.
I'm very
Cultural
triggered.
appropriation, anyone?
You have to talk more like him if you want to keep the image.
Wow.
Imagine if every America talked like John Wayne.
Look here, Pilgrim.
I think that's what a lot of foreigners think. That.
John
Ah.
Lennon.
Don't you? You're
Thanksgiving.
not careful.
All right, now this is degenerated. It's the Australian caveman, of course, but
I'm just
no, I think it's not because of Paul. It's because like when Distributus had his live stream with Zimmy and the other guy, and they had 5 people, it went perfect. No one interrupted each other. It was great.
And then Fritz showed up and it
No. As soon as more people come in, then like 5 is the limit. After that, it gets way too many. It gets cancer. So Paul, get out.
especially if Fritz is part.
I'm kidding.
No.
I'm kidding.
So,
He left.
oh, son of a bitch.
He'll probably
Fritz,
come back.
You need
He'll
to
be
put
coming back
more
in a few
lulls
minutes.
at the end of your sentences, not only in written form.
Did anyone notice? Was that
Lull wasn't
Fritz
the
video
right
where
term to
someone was
use.
like,
Smiley
This is
face.
serious.
Can
Goodness.
Can I go back to Star Trek for a second?
Yes.
yeah,
I was gonna say that I can only get through Star Trek because no matter what world exists, those characters would be the same no matter what kind of world vision you kind of put them in, and that's what kind of carries me through all the obvious communism. Is
fully
that the fact that
automated
the characters
gay
are
space
enjoyable.
communism?
Like Captain Kirk as a character would still exist in in a space capitalist society and in a space socialist one. It'd probably be more probable in a space capitalist one because he
An anarcho-capitalist space.
heterosexual anarcho-capitalist what gay space.
he wouldn't have been
communism. So-
physically removed, is what you're saying.
Yeah. But like it actually kind of frustrates me that that the kind of world vision that they created makes Jean-Luc Picard almost seem very quaint in that kind of world because he's almost like perfect, and the world that they're creating is quote unquote perfect. It's like Jean-Luc Picard is much more interesting as a person in a flawed world.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like I would love to see like what if he was in what if the Enterprise had what if it crashed, landed on just an alien planet, and that's most of the series. Like they actually have to deal with the fact that they can't use any of their modern technology.
Picard would be amazing on that.
Oh, it'd be really interesting.
Are you suggesting? Are you suggesting we create? Sorry, Paul.
I said, don't violate the Prime Directive. That is the Prime
That's
Directive.
the
You're not allowed to violate it.
You mean the non-aggression principle?
I was gonna say though that are you suggesting, Fritz, that we create a commander of the space flies? Is that what you're suggesting?
Is this Lord of the Flies or what?
Yeah, Lord of the Flies. Yeah. It's just
Who's Piggy then? Is that Wesley? Shut up, Wesley. That's the one line. That's the one line from Next. I love this. What's the most memorable line from Next Generation? Shut up, Wesley.
Yeah, because you could apply it to Will Wheaton now because dick.
It's like but it's like then when like he keeps talking and his mom just goes, "Shut up, Wesley." Like it's the most like this. That's how a Star Trek character says, "Shut up, Wesley." It's like Picard sort of broke the character by actually showing emotion.
Mm-hmm.
It's like normally, like the way his mom said, just goes, "This is how you would say shut up in the Star Trek world." Be shut up, Wesley.
Yeah, but Picard broke it because Wesley is that fucking annoying. Actually, Will Wheaton is that annoying.
Oh, hey, Zimmy.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up?
I liked your live stream with Fritz, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't watch it, honestly.
I think Fritz was very restrained.
Oh, was he? I'm happy to hear that.
Mm-hmm. I wonder why. What's different?
It's because I'm Catholic. That's all.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
How's the car going?
Tiny doctrinal differences. It's not noticeable.
Fritz is like a year away from being Catholic. I promise you. Especially if we stay friends.
Well,
I feel like I sometimes feel like that the movie Silence, where they're like trying to force the guy to apostatize. It's like, don't you dare make me step on a plate of Martin Luther.
One of my
I'm not doing it, and that's that.
One of my friends went to seminary, and like everyone who went through ended up like one order of liturgy closer than they were before. So like, I go from like non-denom Baptist, or like from like Episcopal to Catholic, or from Catholic to Jewish.
I'm going to agree with Zimmy on something very much. Is that if the Catholic Church decided to go back on all the progressive BS, if they decided to be more conservative, I think definitely more people would join. Because like,
I agree. Yeah. Well, I agree.
The weird thing is that
with me.
they haven't actually.
Nothing beats a stone, and I mean like going back to Latin, Gregorian chants.
Vatican I.
Stone churches. Every single church that isn't made of stone has to be made of stone. Every single one of them has to look Gothic.
I think. Right? Okay. How about what about the small little white churches in America? Like the little that's the thing, is like that's another one of the reasons why I think
Town.
That was the best. That was so Catholic iconoclast. How ironic.
Yeah.
I love this. I want to make that. There's like the black guy logic meme. It's like you can't have an iconoclasm if your churches are completely empty of everything.
Oh my god.
But yeah, again, Zibby, yes, I think this Sunday I'm going to go to a local Anglican church and see what's what.
I think you should go to a local Latin mass. That's what I think you should do.
I don't know if we have those. I've gone to mass with my friend.
You're not going to understand anything. What's the point of going somewhere and not understand what's
Once
going
I get a car,
because it feels unearthly, and that's really cool. It's like hearing songs in Elvish.
Exactly.
I want Elvish mass.
Elvish mass.
Elvish mass or riot.
Yes.
We're not a mass.
Preferable to Klingon.
Actually, what would be even cooler? What if, I wish they would do. What if they did mass in Aramaic?
Fuck that.
I enjoyed very much a Greek Orthodox mass I was at when when my cousin was getting married, and I think they use Greek a lot.
Well, if they just did mass in pure tongues.
Oh god.
Oh my god.
Hang on. Verse that says like be ready to provide a translation immediately after.
Right.
Yeah.
I love this. I love
Problem.
some of the there's some wonderful Protestant traditions and some weird ones. Like I think it'd be hilarious, like to go when you're like looking at different churches, you go to them, you go, are you the type? You're not the churches that throw snakes at people, right?
Yeah.
I think those are only that I think is only in the Appalachian Mountains, man. And that was from one
really just
guy
coming through the
who
window
read the
and someone
Bible
tries
and
to
said
get 'em out.
something about carrying snakes. So he
Well, if they're
literally
gonna have-
went outside of his
we're in a
house
world full
and he
of
carried a
snakes.
snake.
We're in a world full of snakes, and you got to be a snake handler.
So what are your guys' opinions about the weird shit? Like, I'm sorry, I'm already inserting my opinion, but what is your opinion about the more charismatic stuff, like especially the tongues and things?
I think it's like I think Pentecostals are Christians and they're well intentioned. They're just
Right.
really, really weird.
Right. Well, who's wrong? Are we wrong for feeling that it's weird? I mean, I've always wondered this. Like, maybe I'm just the one who's like got my own secular intentions, and I think this is odd. But then I go to mass and I worship a piece of bread.
Are you saying that Pastor Bob's Bible Palooza is actually the one true faith?
I saw that.
Are you
I
saying
saw that on the
Bible
Discord,
man,
but I didn't know what it was.
Are you saying
Bible
the
man?
Bible
What?
man is the next
He's
the next great
Smith.
preacher?
Who
Are
would
you
Bible
saying
Bible man or
you would bow before a talking cucumber and tomato in order to
VeggieTales was awesome.
Yeah.
VeggieTales is awesome.
They actually pushed the medium forward. They were for 3D animation at the time. That was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I know that. Looking back, that is like the one thing that keeps striking me.
And they did the smart thing of like, okay, we're gonna have them be very simple shapes, like vegetables. So like just just like cucumber, just round shapes. We're not gonna make them look like people because we don't have the technology to make it not look horrifying. They were restrained. And then Ben McLean's been telling me about I should listen to Adventures in Odyssey, which was basically it was like a kids and family radio.
Binge it all right now.
Done for like it apparently I didn't even either, but it's like focus on the family. Basically they created a radio play aimed at like kids and families.
Fun fact.
It started in the 90s and it ran for like it still runs now, and like Ben McLean says a lot of it is sort of cringy kid stuff, but like some of it, like some of the story arcs, he says, are some of the best radio plays since the 40s.
Fun fact, Focus on the Family has their own zip code.
Really?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's a nice little trivia question.
I can obviously understand if you're liberal or if you're left wing, if you're pro degeneracy, why you would hate the Focus on the Family. But I'm thinking it's like, is it sort of like the unwritten agreement where it's like, are conservative Christians like, oh yeah, we're supposed to not like Joel Osteen because he's horrible. Like,
Yeah.
Are we allowed to like focus on the family?
Yeah.
They don't do bad things. They promote the family, which is good. But like, are they just like bad at it?
So I want to go back to all right, so I haven't met you yet. American? Do you have a real name other than American?
Yeah, just
We
call
don't need a name other than American.
Lay low.
I love this. Two people got on American and British.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that. I thought that was planned.
No, it's not.
That's awesome.
Coincidental.
So what he was saying about what I had said about the how the Catholic Church needs to reject all this new liberal crap. For the most part, I think like doctrinally and dogmatically, like we're still like the same church that we have been, for a long time. It's mostly just the rogue old ass nuns who want to be priests that are pushing this secular agenda. And I used to work in a Catholic center where I worked there for like almost 2 years around these liberal old Catholic so-called nuns who don't wear a habit anymore. They just cut their hair like dykes and they think that they're living a chaste life. But anyway, they would tell me things. I was an evangelical myself, and they would tell me things like, oh, well, I like to, in my spiritual life, I like to go beyond Jesus. I look into like Buddhism. I'm like, there is no beyond Jesus, you stupid moron. You're a nun. You're the definition of a religious. And they'll tell me things like, oh, I'm not really a religious, I'm more spiritual. I'm like, you took vows, lady. Like, what are you talking about?
That's pretty.
So they wonder why they're not getting this particular order. They're not getting any new recruits. Like their newest members, like 60. And they're like, we just don't understand why these young girls don't want to be a part. I'm like, because you're not anything different. If they're going to give up a husband and be chaste for the rest of their life and live for the church, they want the habit. They want the actual legitimate.
The Distributist made a point where he says, like, near him, like where he lives, like there's in local grave cemeteries, they have like they buried a lot of nuns there, and he says that like around like 50 years ago they had like a split where it's like some nuns wore the habit and some rejected it, and he's like, guess which ones actually still continue today? The ones that wore the habit.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Again, I don't know if you saw my video, Zimmy, the one I made yesterday.
I loved it, by the way. I haven't commented yet, but I wanted to give a really long comment, so I figured I just.
It's good,
but I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like my point is, again, like and I think that's essentially what the Protestants, at least still in large part, believe. Like one of the bigger things that's separating them from Catholicism is that is the idea, or at least perceived idea, that there's too much of a focus on the tradition and ritual, that it's sort of obscured, or it's sort of overshadowed the pure belief in worship of God. And I think that I still think there's some truth to it. I think a lot of people, Catholics, who aren't as well educated on it, like in Mexico, I think like there's a sort of a real problem where they actually do legitimately worship Mary. Like they don't just venerate her as the mother of Jesus. They actually think she is they essentially treat her like a goddess.
Yeah, it gets confusing with the whole phrase co-redemptress, and I'm still a little fuzzy on it myself. But what I've discovered is that it's not nearly as worshipy as I always think. It's always more like she was part of the ultimate plan that enabled God to come into being. And yes, God would have found another way if she had said no, but she didn't. She said yes, and it gets complicated. But going back to the tradition thing and ritual, one thing I wanted to talk about, I was going to comment, but like I said, I would rather just talk to you about it. But I do agree with you that honestly, the Catholics that are like what we call cradle Catholics, and then they just totally stray away and they're just culturally Catholic, I think they're one of the biggest problems for the church right now, is because they have the face of being proudly Catholic, and then they're at the strip club on the weekends, So
and like they're receiving. I imagine a large number of people, like because they don't actually know what the Catholic Church teaches. Probably a large number of the people who are divorced or had committed mortal sin, like had an abortion or something like that. They'll stroll in next on Sunday because they still think they should go to church, and they'll get communion when they really shouldn't.
Yeah, they really shouldn't. I mean, I think the thing is with the traditions, with the ritual, and like we were talking about, like different languages and having Latin in the church, it really is otherworldly. And you want the mass, like what we believe is happening in the mass is it's the sacrifice again. Even though it only occurs once in timeline, it is. I'm really bad at my theology talk, but basically it is the sacrifice again. I know. Funny. Well, I'm actually a new Catholic, so I should be really up to speed on this stuff. But anyway, so it's a sacrifice. So we believe this is something that is extremely important. So we want this to feel like it's not of this world, it is of heaven. So having a different language that you don't hear every day, having sights and smells and tastes that you don't have every day, is something that kind of brings you out of it. And I think the ritual does help those who are already in the right direction, but it can be a hindrance to those who aren't.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's the thing, is like that's why I like in a lot of Protestant churches, like that they have both a traditional worship service and a contemporary one, where like the contemporary service is essentially meant for either people who are not very educated about the theology, like they just sort of go to church, or for people who are essentially new to Christianity, and so they have something they're very palatable. But like I think that's the problem with the church I go to right now, is like it only has a contemporary service, and like I'm not really finding a deeper theology. And that's why I want to try out the Anglican, the ACNA. Before I go on that, it seems like the ACNA, the Anglican Church North America, which is the conservative offshoot of the Episcopalians, they're basically really good on every single issue except women's ordination.
Right.
Bishops only men can be bishops, and they let every diocese decide on women's ordination. And the thing is, I don't agree with it, but I'm fine with the fact. I've sort of accepted, because then essentially it's like, would I rather have a female priest who is completely orthodox in everything else,
right,
or a male priest who doesn't believe in anything?
The problem is, I feel like it's just a slippery slope to just letting in more heresy.
No, I agree. But I think like the way it goes right now, because I think Orthodox conservative, young Orthodox Christians, small O Orthodox, are becoming more and more conservative. And I think like when you read backwards and when you finally start rejecting the sort of idea of progress, you basically start going, okay, well,
and history goes in one direction.
that you start going, okay, if we're going to be, it's like the same arguments used for women's ordination are often like the same arguments they've used for gay marriage. It's like, we get with the time. It's like, it's like, and so it's like, I think like the church, I almost think the church eventually will go the other way because they recently released a like basically it was a whole bunch, it was like a whole sort of, they had like a task force for the past several years, like figure out like, come up with all the arguments and study the issue really carefully. And it wasn't actually meant to like the statement wasn't meant to actually officiate a change. It was just sort of meant like, this is, at least this can help us, like when we actually debate this issue, we can actually have a nice resource to draw on. Right. And it's the problem though, I think with the Anglican Communion is like it needs to be a little more like the Catholic Church in the sense of having a little more authority than it does right now. Because when the Episcopal Church a couple of years ago said gay marriage was okay, they got suspended, which because the Anglican Communion, which is the body of all Anglicans around the world, all about 85 million of them, is basically they are theologically orthodox, and but they didn't really punish the Episcopal Church enough. Interesting to see what happens in the future, because if the Church of England is heading for a schism, because they're at their synod, they're literally going to decide whether or not they're going to debate and vote on, are we going to have a baptism service for transgender people?
Oh
dear God.
I think at that point, GAFCON and all the conservative bishops, I think at that point they would actually really start having to go, okay, we might need to now press for a schism.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if the final result of that is 51% in favor, schism is definitely going to happen.
I'm going to head out, but
see ya.
My summer plans I'm looking forward to, so I can add more to discussions, is I'm going to visit a bunch of high church denominations, so like Anglican, Orthodox. It'll be fun. Once I get my car situation fixed that Zimmy knows all about.
That was right. That was insane, man.
Yeah.
Also, Josh, is there any I know I keep pressing on the Anglican ordinate, but look for the Anglican ordinate churches if there's one near you, if you're able.
Okay.
It appeals to my...
Stop converting my friends, Simi.
I'll get you too.
Yeah, and the Byzantine rite as well. Right?
Oh gosh, yeah. The Anglican ordinate, it satisfies that deep English part of me, with also
I'm
like
German, not English, so
I'm English.
It'll be Lutheran.
Go to the Anglican ordinate.
I'm gonna go.
I think you'll love it. It's beautiful.
I'll talk to you
later.
All right. What was it? What were we talking about earlier? Yeah. Again, the thing is, like, I still have the issues, theological issues. Like, right now, the issue I've been most focused on, like, bigger thing that's keeping me out of Catholicism is, like, I just can't come to accept the idea of purgatory.
Oh God, purgatory is so beautiful, Fritz. Oh my goodness.
No, it's not. It's a horrible place.
Okay, all right. Let me tell you.
No, you will not. Your Jesuit tricks won't work on us. You're trying to convert us Protestants.
How dare you call me a Jesuit?
You're trying to convert Protestants.
Each time.
No, the Jesuits is why we have Francis and his big mouth. No.
Well, it's in his tiny brain because he doesn't understand what he's talking. The problem with Francis is I don't think he's genuinely heretical. He just doesn't understand that every time he says something stupid, all the liberals start screaming because they're stupid, and they're like,
You don't understand. You don't understand. It's because Francis is heretical, but it's because he comes from socialist South America. Okay. Am I saying that socialists should be hanged? Yes, but
I thought there was something about helicopters before that.
No, helicopters. They put the socialist executions too far away from the people to show them as an example.
It's a waste of fuel.
I love this. I mean, if you didn't know, the American Mick, he's a Presbyterian and he's Irish, and his avatar that he's using is a member of the IRA.
Beautiful.
I don't know why.
Heritage is very much trumping.
So paganism is where you're going in the future? Irish paganism?
Sure, why not?
Go back to the Celtic religion. It's beautiful.
Reclaim the satanic star.
No, Catholicism.
You mean the Celtic Church before the Catholics turned up?
Yeah, but you know what?
Yeah, sure.
The Celts actually say that Catholicism is the true fulfillment of the Celtic faith.
I have, since my family's Irish, despite the fact that we are Presbyterian, I do have a Catholic cross somewhere.
Mhm.
It's my family is in a very weird cultural conundrum. I don't know what it is. All right.
Somebody in the
Well,
chat
yeah.
said, "I love how Fritz rants about Protestants converted Catholics, but here the reverse is." The thing, what I'm talking about is like when evangelicals set up specific ministries to start converting Catholics. I'm like, there's a lot more important things to do right now. It's like
Family.
it's like agreeing everyone needs to drive a car, but you're upset that other people have different type of car.
I was
Like-
gonna say, is
Go
that, is that your final point? Because I wanted to go back to the whole why the church should be more conservative.
Oh yeah.
Because I feel
I love
like
that.
that's more okay. So, or every church really. The idea that you're going to make salvation seem so easy is idiotic. You know why?
Right.
Because people, I feel like I don't want to. Maybe I should, do a video about this or write some lengthy something, maybe even a book about this. Because I think I'm starting somewhere good with this. Is that people want to have like this unobtainable maxim in their life. You know, they want to have something in their life that they just can, they want to strive for, but they can't exactly reach, and they see that as like a good thing. I guess that's like the myth of Sisyphus, but it's not as it's not as cynical. I guess.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is that
because
people?
it's because it's like this is your ultimate goal and you've achieved it. What do you have left?
The only
Exactly.
thing, and I think that's the reason why SJWism is getting ahead of like the more conservative things, because all the traditional things, all the conservative things are being treated as if they're much more easy than they honestly should be. But then you have SJW coming along and saying that we can never purge the world of we can never purge the world of
They always have
whiteness.
It's what you're saying is basically they always have something to fight against. There's
Yes.
always that thing they
Yes.
Constant struggle with all Marxist ideologies.
It's why I don't think that going to outright war with Muslims is a bad thing, because they're a super good enemy. And
Again, who did I get on to this?
Yeah.
What
No,
horrors
but
have I
a
brought?
guy with a very extreme sense of humor.
No, but I actually agree. Not with the Muslim. Well, maybe a little bit, but with the Muslim.
that was most.
Floats my dudes.
That was mostly
But-
a joke.
But I agree. They're trying to create heaven on earth, and that's appealing because you know it's never going to happen, but you want to fight for it. And if you don't believe in the otherworldly, if you don't believe in the supernatural, then that's all you have.
That's like,
I'll give it kind of to the Catholics. They did admit some external things from things like Augustine and Augustine of Hippo and oh God, what's his face?
Thomas Aquinas.
Thomas Aquinas.
well, guess what, guys?
Well, okay,
hold
so
on.
I know that
Remember-
Protestants like to bring them up, but Luther was the guy that said we only need the Bible. But I'm like, Hippo made a fantastic argument about the city of God and like the city on earth and stuff like that. Like, it makes sense.
Hey, the Anglicans said, hey, we also have the Book of Common Prayer, which is everybody seems to like. But
that started a lot of.
I'm trying to read through the ACNA's catechism because I'm like, oh, this is what the Catholics are talking. Because all the Catholics keep talking about that the catechism right now is bad.
Wait,
But-
the Catholics say that our catechism is bad?
Like pious, like the people who are like super trad cats are like upset.
Oh, well, are they SSPX? Or they totally reject Vatican II
No,
altogether?
okay, the kid is 17, but God bless, he's really
Oh,
intelligent. and-
Pius! I love Pius.
Yeah. Mershon said when I think I was drunk one night, and I said something mean to him. I'm sorry if he's watching this. I already apologize. It's like I said, like, well, you're 17, so like dismissing him. So I feel bad now. And now Mershon says bad things will happen if I insult him because of his age more. So in any case, like, I'm not going to talk about other people when they're not here, unless it's Dean Esme.
I also wanted to add that I like the idea of separating the city of God and the city on earth because it makes it a lot easier to argue for doing seemingly pretty awful things in order to put the world on the right path. But that's just me.
You're saying that you like that the ends can justify the means?
Some
That's a little dangerous.
no, not entirely.
Look, all I'm saying is the Protestant Reformation literally caused Marxism and the French Revolution. Wait,
No, that's not what I'm saying. In fact, the French Revolution, they were not Protestant. They were demon worshipping
pagans.
There's an image I saved on my computer that describes like how England is great and why France sucks.
Oh, yeah.
It was a propaganda. It's some propaganda back from the.
It's like English. It's like English tyranny versus French slavery. And it's just like the French people are all starving, the English people are all nice, fat, and happy. It's like
let me describe. Let me read this and describe it in as like as posh as I can fucking do it. All right,
get the English guy to do it.
I don't know. I like to do a more mocking accent than a legitimate one. All right. All right. So, no offense, British. Okay.
If you're in the chat, I'll do a mocking.
All right. So, British liberty, religion, morality, loyalty, obedience to the laws, independence, personal security, justice, inheritance,
Brexit.
Protection of property, industry, prosperity, happiness. French liberty, perjury, rebellion, freedom, anarchy, murder, equality, madness, cruelty, injustice, treachery, ingratitude, idleness, famine, national and private ruin, misery. Okay, which is the best?
You're getting a little Korean with the French.
Yeah.
And then you have the German. You have the Germans. We just have the best of everything. What you must understand is that.
Sounds like he's promoting French Canada because that's the best Canada.
Oh my God! French Canada is best Canada. It's the best Canada.
I went to
by the way,
Quebec
Fritz,
once.
your Peterson was awesome. By the way.
Oh, thank you. I've attained all the dominance hierarchies, eh?
What's all that about? I love how he sounds constantly.
I think I said this earlier in the stream before you came. You need to look up the video Jordan Peterson on cocaine.
I did see that. Yeah, that was brilliant.
Fire will cleanse everything. It's what Hitler would have wanted. Fire will cleanse everything.
I love how he.
Sort yourself out, bucko.
That sounds like Barney.
Yeah.
I'm your friend.
I haven't woken up
yourself out. Ascend the dominance hierarchies, eh?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Simpsons Barney. I wasn't seeing the connection.
No.
Clean your room. That's the only Simpsons voice I know how to do. Don't ask me for more.
Old Simpsons. But what were we talking about? Oh yeah. Like, because I like how I miss having I like having like a culture and actual sort of like I still like the church I go to now because they're great on actual metaphysics and belief. Like we aren't SJW and all that. Except for last week, the pastor did a weird racially charged sermon.
That's interesting.
It's sort of par for the course for a lot of Protestants. Obviously, you think after the election, when it was revealed that 80% of white evangelicals voted for Trump, that all this sort of like trying to, and the fact that about 75% of evangelical Christians are white, it's like this whole race baiting stuff doesn't work because remember, I think a large number of evangelicals are probably in the working class. So
right.
Do what I think caused your preacher to make that little sermon. It was white guilt.
No, because the thing is, he's a Southerner. He looks a little like Richard Spencer, but with blonder hair, and his kids are like literally his family looks like they should be on the poster for like an Aryan Race magazine.
Oh my goodness.
They're the most.
Well, that's the perfect family, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. But like
my brother, he's very good friends with his band teachers, and he showed me a picture of one of his teachers' family, and he's like, this is like the perfect family because they're all white, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Again, I'll say this because if we're going to talk about like the religious stuff, how people are definitely sort of drawn to narratives, they're drawn to sort of images and like things they can put together rather than like a list of like facts. That's why it's like, again, well, as much as I disagree with it, I think there's a lot of cool. the narrative of Joseph Smith and the restoration of the priesthood is at least sort of cool. And like, I actually live right near where he got the golden plates.
Where did he get the hat?
I don't know. Where did he get the 4 wives? but like so every year though, over the summer they have a play. It's called the Hilkamore pageant, where it is the play of Joseph Smith. So I actually want to check it out this year.
Does it have the Joseph Smith "He Was a Prophet" song in it?
I think they just play. They just have footage from BioShock Infinite. But
who was it who mentioned? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Fetz. I was changing.
No,
topics.
go ahead.
I was gonna ask who was it that mentioned Metal Gear Solid? I forgot. I didn't know who it was. I just heard it. It was like 20 minutes ago, and I'm sorry. I just love Metal Gear Solid. Oh, okay, I love that.
Oh, I have a friend of mine. His channel name is Snake is Ninja. So
yes,
I'm PC Master Race.
Oh,
so.
wait a minute. That's Snake Guy. You invited him to a live stream, and I asked to take his place, and I never got a response from that.
I can't remember it.
God.
The thing is, we were IRL friends. Like, we tried to do a gaming thing, like recording game footage, but just like it didn't work out because like it just sounded horrible. So.
It does not work out unless you literally live in the same house. The only channels that ever get that going well is if they literally live in the same place. Only places like that one new thing, Fun House or whatever it is, something house. They all live obviously in the same house.
Game Grumps until John left.
John's wonderful.
Oh, John left?
Yeah.
John Tron from Game Grumps.
Oh, yeah. Actually, Game Grumps too.
Game Grumps is actually good. I will give it that. But like, I think that on the other side of that, I actually really like, even though they discontinued the series because Yahtzee Croshaw moved to the US, is Let's Drown Out with on Yahtzee's secondary channel with him and his Australian friend.
I follow Gabriel Morton on an alternate Twitter account, which means you could probably find me now and dox me. Yeah. Please do, by the way. Please get my house firebombed. Anyway, but I follow Gabriel.
Firebombed by the IRA.
It's amazing. It's amazing how left wing that guy is.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of despicable.
Somebody described him. He's a slightly less annoying Brian Griffin.
Oh wow.
But it's like him
funny Brian Griffin.
It's like I remember like one episode where like they were most of it's funny. I don't want to discourage people from checking the stuff out, but like
yes,
because they're thing is they're at least Yahtzee, he's like very intelligent. Like he's actually made games and he's like within the industry. You know, I've made many games, but the problem is though how nihilistic and sort of just horrible. It's sort of like his mindset on life is awful. Yahtzee Croshaw, as much as funny as he is and as clever, it's still like it's sort of the epitome of just young British sort of Gen X just nihilism. But there was one episode where they were like they were playing The Sims and like Gabriel started screaming about like how like he thinks that we can't like Chuck Norris because he signed Prop 8, and basically like saying that if you're opposed to gay marriage, you're literally just evil.
Jeez.
Yeah, pretty much.
Even though Australia doesn't have gay marriage.
Yeah, so he's Australian left wing though. That's a different kind of left wing that I don't want to take part in. Gabriel Morton actually it inspired me to want to write a book about about a like in the near future the spider problem in Australia gets so bad that like they become gigantic and they have to alleviate their gun laws a little bit, at least out in the big countryside, so they could actually kill the spiders.
It's a real thing in Australia.
Oh god, I'm a bit of an arachnophobe. So
I know, but it'd be a great book because like the thing is that like they would alleviate the gun laws a little bit just for the outback, so crazy people can go hunt the spiders themselves, and they try to keep the spiders out as much away from the city as possible. But one spider egg somehow gets his way to Brisbane, and all hell breaks loose.
It's a giant spider.
The only people who are able to survive are basically criminals who ignore the gun laws. Isn't that a fucking amazing like setup for like a book? I could never write any of them though.
I can my idea for a book that I've started writing as well in a little bit, but beforehand, like if we could actually move a little bit towards videos, is
Sorry.
On Distributist, not the one he made on Islam, the one before that, the one of like how to resist progressive institutions. Like I think that is something I have to address. Is like when he talks about how like when your Reaganite baby boomer parents tell you engage, or like Christians and Catholics say engage with the culture. It's like no, it's like we can't engage with the culture now. It's like what engage with the culture that is detrimentally hostile to Christianity. Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah.
Oppose your culture.
It's like, what does it even? And it's like, I think actually I want to make a video. I think my next video might be called like it'll be like against the idea of like when people say, "Oh, the pendulum swings back and forth," and why that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard.
Yeah,
because it's fundamentally the Reagan baby boomer idea. Like my parents use it. It's like the pendulum swings left wing and then it goes back an equal amount right wing. I'm like.
No.
When has that?
They've been tracing.
When has that ever happened?
They've been tracing generational cycles since what's it called? I gotta find this. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that this generational cycle didn't really affect politics, but for some reason, ever since basically Marxism, it somehow ties into politics. So
Right.
I forget how long it goes back to the 100 Years' War. Like, it really didn't change politics from that point of the 100 Years' War until, like, basically the 20th century. So why does that cycle now become a political thing?
I think it's because of
and not just, like, a generational attitude thing.
I think it's actually that's a fairly easy thing to explain. It's because of it's because of mass politics, of mass universal suffrage, and the fact that because of social media and mass literacy and education, everyone whereas before, if you're just some, illiterate farmer in the French countryside, you have zero impact on what happens politically. But now everyone has an opinion, and now there's actual market research. People are for the first time, advertisers and people are trying to get the beat on what the zeitgeist is, and that's been going on for the past 100 or 150 years. But again, my point is that the fact that it's such a naive idea that it's people don't understand how bad things are.
Mhm.
That literally it sort of just weighs on me how bad things are, in the sense that's literally every major institution in the West is run by progressives.
Mhm.
No,
The schools, the bureaucracy, huge portions of elected politicians,
Large part of the church.
corporations, churches,
entertainment industry.
Yep, everything. It's just, and that's everything has essentially everything that I love that line. I can't remember who said it. It's any organization or any group that is not explicitly right wing will inevitably drift left wing.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. But Fritz, I think you're right about the whole pendulum thing. That's it's not so much a pendulum; it's more an Overton window. It's just
exactly.
we're shifting slowly, and even if there is a little bit of sway within that window, they think that's the pendulum shifting. It's no, you're still the entire window has shifted.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
again, it's
It's kind of like the business cycle in a way. There are swings in the cycle, but it's all deteriorating downward in this case instead of upward.
Yeah, it will continuously left wing, but what's the difference? But yeah, it's okay. People say use the fact that in the 80s you had the conservative Reaganite revolution of the silent majority, or no, that was Nixon.
That was Nixon.
Yeah,
By
that was
the way,
Nixon. But go ahead.
That's how
Nixon is
similar
a
these
tragic
are.
hero.
Who was?
Nixon is a tragic hero.
He got rid of the gold standard, though.
He was okay. No, but listen. Okay, listen. He was a tragic hero in the sense that he had a pretty good run as presidency. You could have disagreed with some things, but he had a pretty good run as presidency. But now he's considered one of the worst just because of Watergate, and that whole thing stemmed from the fact that he was personally paranoid.
Yeah.
He was his own
Actually,
downfall. But in my mind, that makes him a tragic hero.
I actually have one of his books I want to read at some point called The Real War. He wrote it after he was done being president, and he got in the helicopter and flew away. It's basically his outlook on foreign policy. So I'd be interested in that. But just the fact that it's the idea that, okay, the 1980s, it's swinging back to the 1950s after the 60s and 70s were so left wing. It's the 80s were probably a lot more socially liberal than the 50s. And Donald Trump era America, even if people compare him to the next Reagan, it's this is a swing back. 2016 America is not the 1980s.
No. Nope.
And this
think,
go ahead.
So I think one of the most interesting things is when you look at the parties that are, for example, declared far right nowadays, you look at their policies, and they're like barely right of centre, for example, or some of them could probably be called almost left of centre, but because Everton Widows gone so far to the left, like anything that isn't like far left is called considered like right wing or far right.
Exactly.
Right wing is called an insult now. Like,
I mean, I think the reason why you have that is because the far left feels like they have the ability to redefine things.
it's not that they feel like it; they
They
do.
do. They do.
They do.
Yeah.
Well, they do it because they feel like they have to. But
So conserving is the antithesis of their purification of modifying. So
Yeah.
by definition, it therefore evil.
And that's why I don't
Like,
actually. I don't even like calling it. I don't even like calling it conservative anymore. It's like, okay, what do we want to conserve? Secular, left-wing, liberal materialism.
Hmm.
I don't want that.
I know that's silly. But I was gonna say that oh damn, you broke my train of thought.
Oh.
Thanks. Fuck, what was I talking about? Damn it.
Hey, before I forget, American, what's your channel?
Hmm?
What is your channel? Do you have a channel?
Oh, it's just called American Mick. Don't look
Also-
for it, please. My old videos suck. I'm probably gonna private most of them, except for the one about me saying that I was being a bit more extreme when I said this, that hate is a good thing. I explained this in the beginning because here's the thing: is that social justice warriorism, social justice progressivism is coming to a point where just being mean is considered
Crime. It's a thought.
is considered
crime.
crime, basically.
Right.
Like I think someone said it. It was either Socrates or Socrates and Freud said that civilization started when the first insult was thrown. Because
I like that.
yes, I think Freud added on to that civilization actually started when the first insult was thrown and someone threw the insult back at him. I was just saying that I kind of realized that was the case because with this whole war. I'm going to talk about the specific thing that kind of set me off on this was because of the whole war on the R word thing. And the thing is that the word retard had been so out of use that it only became an insult. And then suddenly people want to reattribute it to people with special needs.
Right.
And I think that is ridiculous.
I actually use retarded at work. And
Because you're in Australia.
I realize-
You're luckier than I am.
But like I work in an area that you're not meant to sort of use that type of language. So I immediately pointed out that I meant in the traditional sense of the word.
That you're literally just
Slow
slow.
it down.
That they're literally just slow. No, yeah.
It amazes me. It amazes me at this point. The classic of liberals or the skeptics is like, I mean, okay, this sounds like I'm talking on a soapbox, but it's just like how stupid. It's like the idea. It's like, oh, we're gonna save Western. How are we gonna save Western civilizations? Like, I had to break it to you.
YouTube videos.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, at this point, with how things are going, it's like we're not gonna save Western civilization. It's gonna be a matter of what can we salvage of it.
Oh, yeah.
The worst
The
thing.
redcoats ain't coming, they're here. The globalists are here. The barbarians are at the gates of Rome, and like you have a bunch of people going, okay, look, guys, here's how we can. If we just say that the barbarians are bad, that'll make it. If we just like declare right on scrolls how bad the barbarians are, that will refute. That will make them go away, and like we can just continue having our Roman society.
Right.
And the
Cardinal
Christians are looking
Biggles
at
wanted
like
to say
not gonna
something,
happen. So go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say. I don't know what I was going to say now.
Well, back to the importance of being mean. Actually, that's why I was kind of a bit of a fan of Milo for a bit. Not because I really liked the guy, but because he was mean, and I felt it was important for him to be mean. Like, people need to be desensitized a bit. They need to be able to tolerate different ideas from their own, or else we're never going to have any kind of discussion.
Again, as much as as much as I understand that, again, I still maintain the fact is like that is essentially a huge part of liberalism. But the thing is, the way things go, liberalism is dying right now. It's like, the liberals on the left are like finally discovering we're trying to rediscover what it means to be liberal, and we're going to reclaim the left, just as liberalism is literally just being buried, is being lowered into the ground. They have
is liberalism dying, or are the people that
liberalism is dying?
Or are the people that used to be labeled as liberal and claimed that idea, they're realizing it's too hard, so they're jumping ship? I mean, and the idea is left. Really?
I think it's the left wing is fractured now after the culture war into the progressives and the liberals. And the liberals, the thing is, just as they're discovering an identity, people like Dave Rubin and Sargon and Kraut, is the fact that that liberalism cannot exist in an unstable society, in which basically in this type of environment
too much on Christianity, yet
liberalism only can only exist in a very stable and prosperous society. That's not where we're headed.
Yeah.
When you have groups like Antifa and eventually the violent pushback from the right, liberalism is over.
Well, yeah, because violence becomes a legitimate form of free speech.
Especially with mass immigration, when we destroy the social cohesion necessary to foster peaceful power relations.
You know, we all crap on Muslims a lot, but here's the thing. This is a group of people that before and after Islam have only been under autocrats until the 20th century.
So like Russia
kind of demands that.
So like Russia, yeah. And we try to give them democracy, and guess what they put in? Autocrats.
Then they either put in secular autocrats or Islamist autocrats.
Or Islamist autocrats.
Or
And then you
Islamist
have,
secular autocrats.
And then you have this so-called Islamic Republic of Iran, and the only Islamic part of it is the actual verses they teach. The structure of it looks too much like Plato's Republic with your philosopher king and such.
And that's again why we keep praising the distributist, but he's sort of just right about so much stuff. But it's just like, I mean, I think he gets a little too like ambitious. So it's like, how are we going to salvage? Like, how are we going to like do all this? It's like we just run YouTube channels.
Yeah,
I mean, we can do something, but it's just like, I think I agree with him where it's like essentially what we should be looking for now is like what institutions can conservative Christians. Actually, I'm just gonna say Christians because like Episcopalians are not Christians. Cultural Catholics are not Christians. Nancy Pelosi is not a Christian. I don't care if she says she's Catholic. She should be excommunicated, to be honest.
Liberal Christians do not count.
Okay, if you're liberal and like I want to liberalize the economy, okay, that's one thing. But in any case, I'm saying
know what we mean by liberal.
Yeah, when I say Christians and people who are in favor of Western civilization, i.e., Christianity, basically it should be a different version of the Benedict option, but like one where you don't just run away. You basically start building your fortress within the actual secular culture, i.e., just like foster strong, robust church communities and like get Christian schools, get Christian. And basically form a Christian Western culture whilst everything else is falling apart. And it's basically, so instead of being cultural, you basically be countercultural. Instead of engaging with the culture, basically create an alternative to the culture.
Well, I was going to say that I think a problem in terms of institutions such is because our society's been very, very liberal. There's, I think, been an idea of sort of push against sort of Christianity, traditionalism, conservative, not new conservative, but well, yes, but conservatism, because there's this idea that those sort of things like restrict freedoms or things, but whereas like liberalism, it gives people freedoms. It opens Christianity shackles people, and all that stuff. It doesn't matter how immoral it is, the stuff they want to do is, but they should be allowed to do it. That's good. Liberal is good. That's.
Well, yeah, that's their. It's like they keep saying we're against ideologies. Liberalism is an ideology. It just happens. But the thing is, like the whole the founding fathers. It's like the whole Ben Franklin quote where he says like giving up liberty for security doesn't deserve either. The thing is, like that's all well and good to say, but like okay, like let's look at the Second World War, right? And the draft and conscription for anybody outside of the U.S. and like having strict regulations on the economy. It's like, okay, we're at war, We have to utilize all the resources of the country so we don't get invaded, so we can actually win the war. Liberalism is over. I think that's gonna happen soon. Like at some point, the right wing the far right is gonna snap. I think militia. I would not be surprised if in the next few years, militia, in response to like groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter, you're gonna start getting right wing militias popping up.
Oh no, you will. Trust
Might
me.
not be the worst thing either. Might help.
I mean, anybody who wants to
really
learn
want-
is gonna be
Which
happy.
is ultimately what I want.
We don't really want a Rule 303 to be provided, and I can provide a link to what Rule 303 is, or you can just Google it.
But I mean, the thing is, at this point, it's like people are not going to have any other choice because the actual people who are supposed to keep order, like the police and the military, are not doing. The police specifically for stuff like Antifa, they're not. Not only are they not doing their jobs, but the actual administration and the government that's supposed to direct this stuff and keep order are essentially aligned with Antifa and organizations like BAM. And so it's like, what other options do you have when the fact is the people that are their entire job, you're supposed to put your faith in them. The police is to protect people's rights, is to protect people. They are not doing it. Someone else will.
Do you know? Do you know what they got to do? They have to heed the words of the great Metternich of Austria. You can do many things with the bayonet except sit on it.
I thought I was going to say. I thought you were going to use the quote. Anytime I hear the word democracy, I know a bloodbath is coming.
Yeah, there's that too. There's that too. Personally, I like Edmund Burke. Is it Edward or Edmund?
Edmund Burke, yes.
Edmund Burke.
The problem with, as much as I love Burke as well, it's almost sort of a similar thing. Is that like his ideas are really good when you have a stable society. When basically society starts degenerating and going crazy, doesn't really mean anything.
No, I like him because he knew the American Revolution was good and that the French Revolution was going to suck.
Yeah.
That's why I like him. I think the only reason the American Revolution went off with a hitch is because it was completely handled by elites.
Oh yeah,
and the French Revolution was not.
That and the fact that like the people of America, our founding fathers, although they were part of the elite zeitgeist of being deists, not actual Christians, they at least knew enough to understand that America is a Christian country. The overwhelming majority of the people in this country are Christians. We're not, and essentially we're not going to mess with that. And essentially what you'd have is that as the decades roll on into the early 19th century, when you had the Second Great Awakening and after following the defeat of Napoleon, you had to move away from deism towards actual Christianity again. Essentially, the idea that that the leaders of the country are more or less deists are sort of ended. Although the thing is, I love a lot of American culture, like music by Stephen Foster or Thomas Cole, the artist. Our literature sucked with the Transcendentalists. I can't stay. Okay, Edgar Allan Poe was great. Her Melville was great, but Walt Whitman, Thoreau, and Emerson were terrible. I've read this is a synopsis of what those people's whole ideology was, and they wrote this in the early and mid 1800s. Guys, we got to drop out of society, man, and be part of the whole oversoul and commune one with the God's nature, man.
I know, even Thoreau eventually left the cabin and went back to civilization.
Yeah, I love how he always tried to talk about how great he was. Hey, I went to jail because I wouldn't pay money for we had slavery. It's you went to jail for one day, and the jail was owned by your best friend. This is like the drunk. It's basically he's like the drunk from the Andy Griffith Show, that just goes to it's like the local sheriff and his cousin deputy. It's what horror must you have gone through?
It really is a
Blazing
shame.
saddles.
It really is a shame that American literature could not get good until after the Civil War.
Well, was Edgar Allan Poe before the war?
I forget.
Is he considered literature because he did short stories?
He was a poet.
Okay.
It's different.
And short story.
Poet short story.
I'm just saying that
he did a few
because
novels.
it wasn't until the Gilded Age that you had things like Twain, Stephen. I think it's Stephen Crane.
Oh, no, but actually, no. Again, as Distributus maintains that he was always right, is that I think what's the one with the whale? What's it called?
Oh, Moby Dick.
Moby Dick is like, I think that was written before the war, and it's one of the best. He says it's like that if they're like they haven't found the great American novel, the closest thing to that is Moby Dick.
Oh, by the way, Poe is definitely after the war because I remember the what was it called, that short story, the Cask.
Cask of Amontillado.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
based on a story I think that happened during the Civil War where this guy killed a dude because he beat him in poker, and so the troops in that guy's rank got that guy drunk and then sealed him behind
built a wall.
prison. Yep.
Donald Trump goes to the Mexicans like, yes, it's a cask.
Hey,
starts building the brick
you want to
wall.
try my Trump wine?
Yeah. Christ, Trump steaks. Oh, someone needs to make that.
I'm a winemaker. I might do it.
Oh.
That's the alternative prison that Hillary Clinton will spend time in.
But do you think she's going to run again in 2020?
She said she's not. I hope she sticks by that, but she is alive.
I hope she does. It would be. I want
Her
her because
political slogan will be "Hindsight is 2020."
we have memes now.
It does suck that that they're trying to prop up Chelsea Clinton though, because I don't think she wants to actually be a part of it.
I was always confused by who Sarah Huckabee Sanders were. Is that like the house of Bernie Sanders and Mike Huckabee just joined together to form Sarah Huckabee Sanders?
Sarah Palin,
I know. It sounds. When I first read that name, I was like, "This is an amalgamation of things that I cannot yet comprehend." Am I looking into the void as an elder god touched me?
Oh yeah, there was also H.P. Lovecraft for the Americans, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that guy was really benefited by the fact that he was a social outcast that only wanted to stay and read in his grandfather's library upstairs
And make books about tentacle monsters.
and make posts about tentacle monsters. And despite the fact that he was a xenophobe, he ended up marrying a Jew cosmopolitan from New York.
That's what I love. I learned this apparently recently. Is that
Oh, he also named his cat the N-word.
That's brilliant. I love him.
that's why I love, like, apparently speaking of Jewish women, do you know who apparently killed Muhammad?
Jewish woman?
A Jewish woman poisoned him she poisoned his lamb and he died. And apparently the Quran explicitly states that proves that Muhammad was a false prophet, because Muhammad stated very clearly, he says, if I die and my aorta is cut, that will show that I am a false prophet. He repeats that all over and over again. Then when he gets poisoned by the Jewish woman, he screams, "It feels like my aorta is being cut." how much he wanted to die in battle, die as a martyr in battle. He dies being poisoned by a Jewish woman.
Never thought I'd
Stuff
say
like
this, but
this
thank God for the Jews.
Oh, Fritz, you took it out of context.
Hashtag not all.
It very much reminds me of a great verse in the Bible. First verse, 14th chapter of the second book of Kings. And he said, "But my brother Esau is a hairy man, but I am a smooth man." If anybody doesn't know where I got that from, you're uncultured.
From 2 Corinthians.
What?
It's from 2 Corinthians.
No, it's not.
So, gentlemen, it's getting rather late when I'm going to head off.
Yeah, we've been doing it for about 2 hours now. We can start wrapping up. Anything else? So thanks for showing up. If you
Thank you for having me.
when you want to make videos, or when you make your first video, please let me know. I'd love to want to watch it, so I can advertise your channel. Both
Thanks
of you
so
guys.
much. It's been a pleasure meeting you all.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you. Bye.
Pip.
So I think we can start. What else do we want to talk about?
One thing I wanted to say is, Fritz, I'm glad I was going to interrupt you before about the Benedict option, because when you were describing, like, kind of hiding away and rejecting the culture, I was like, hey, Fritz, have you ever heard of the Benedict option? That's something I think.
I know what the Benedict option is. I think the problem, though, is that this is like, you have to have, it's like, we can't all be like the Amish, because the problem is, okay, the Amish may have a super stable and super Christian society. The problem is that the only reason that why they can continue to have a basically have their society set up any way they want.
Collapsed.
No, yeah, that, and also the fact that the United States has a massive military. And
Yeah.
the thing is, like, if we basically try and form these little wood like tribes in the mountains of Christians, we wouldn't have, even if we didn't say, if we said we're not going to reject modern technology.
Mhm.
The thing is, like, not having access to major industries and corporations these days, like, we would not be able to have the resources in order to actually defend ourselves properly. I mean, we could. I mean, still a bunch of people, as history has shown us, a bunch of religious zealots hiding in the mountains with with rifles can actually be pretty hard to get rid of. But I think the overall point, though, is that we actually, like Distributed says, sound like a broken record here, but it's right. Is we
He's
have to have
on the chat now, so you can actually impress him.
Oh, hey, Tato. But is that we need to have like institutions. We actually have to like have conservative traditionalist Christians be like leaders of corporate places, or like be in positions of high authority. We need the thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh, one more thing. It's really, really not important, and it's kind of bitchy. But have you guys seen the picture going around Twitter of Chelsea Clinton and Bob Hubble's daughter?
No, because I don't care.
I
don't know who one of them is.
So basically, just the idea of again that Chelsea Clinton is not Bill Clinton's daughter, and I'm still got that bitchy part of me where I'm like, ha ha ha. Anyway.
Is she actually not?
No, she totally isn't. I mean, if you look at Bob Hubble, who I'm actually kind of related to.
Do they claim she is?
She looks just like him. She looks just like him. Yeah, anyway. And she was related. He was a good friend of Hillary Clinton around the time that she was born. But it doesn't really matter.
Have you heard about Justin Trudeau and his apparent father? People think
Barack
that
Obama is his father.
People think that Castro was Trudeau's father.
I heard that,
because Justin Trudeau does have that really weird, good-looking, what's it called, Caribbean suave look to him that his disgusting French-Canadian father could never really look like. And if you look at the young pictures of Castro before he decided to grow that disgusting beard of his, he does look like Trudeau a lot. And the Trudeau family was in connections with Castro, so very possible that that Justin Trudeau is literally the product of cuckolding.
At least with Corbyn, right? Jeremy Corbyn. At least I hope outside of Diane Abbott, they didn't give a large portion of the electorate didn't say they voted for him because he's good looking like they did with Trudeau.
Right.
Well, this is the result of democracy, isn't it? It's like that you're going to get people who this is the bread and circuses. It's just like, why are we going to vote for this person? Because he's handsome. Oh, yeah, putting power into your hands was a great idea. You're not.
That's why I think suffrage is a stupid idea.
No, that's why women shouldn't vote.
No, it's suffrage in general. Universal suffrage is a dumb idea. There's a right-wing person that told me that if it wasn't for universal suffrage, Andrew Jackson wouldn't have gotten elected. I'm like, first of all, universal suffrage wasn't completely implemented yet, so he won anyway. And two, your argument for why universal suffrage should exist is to elect Democrats. Good job. Anyway, but yes, voting should only be given to people who own property. Right. Have a certain income that's equal to that, because I don't know, some people live in apartments and they have a good amount of money, or they serve in the military.
That's the only people who should vote. I think it should be just aristocratic at the central level.
I would love to bring back an aristocracy, to be honest.
Yeah,
you pointed out. Here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to say is,
in this culture,
all societies have elites. You can't get away from having elites. The idea that the people are going to have complete power over it doesn't work. You have to decide, though, who do you want to be the elites?
Exactly.
Successful people.
Right now, what we have as the elites.
Not a great.
Right now, what we have as the elites are intellectuals and academics and corporate leaders who seem to visibly hate and despise the actual culture they live in.
Well, it's not just them.
I'm
it's
not going to
also the
invade St.
bankers.
Clair.
It's
Please
also the
do not
bankers
ask
and
that ever again.
Oh.
Let me see. Talking about.
So my question is: should voting therefore be compulsory?
No.
No.
God,
What?
no.
What?
No,
No.
hang on. Let me finish. If you have all those restrictions, should voting then be compulsory?
Wait,
Hmm.
I'm just.
Hmm.
If we have all those restrictions. Oh,
As in, like,
Landowning and things like that.
nah. I think the less voting, the better.
I think right now, I mentioned this. Right now, if we live in a country like Japan, which has essentially only one party, when the same party has won almost every election since the end of the Second World War, their Liberal Democratic Party, which is their center-right party. If we had essentially a one-party democracy and you had compulsory voting, wouldn't that essentially make it? Isn't that basically like a dictatorship? Isn't that basically an authoritarian state?
It's a dictatorship where they force you to re-vote the dictator in every time. Like it's kind of like the whole you have the freedom to choose, and you only get one choice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, voting is compulsory in North Korea.
And in Australia.
Yes, it is compulsory here as well.
Really?
Are you saying that Australia is just as bad as North Korea?
Basically.
No, but Americans have placed the main island of Australia as North Korea on a map before.
Australia's not an island, though. It's a continent.
We're an island continent, thank you very much.
Well,
Yeah,
by
they're
that logic, everything is a continent. It's like, okay, South America, because South and North America, okay, now South America, because of the Panama Canal, is technically an island.
No,
And Pluto's still a planet, Fritz. Come on.
Nah.
It's about size.
You have to
One of the
understand,
things.
though. You have to understand, though, that if India didn't run into Asia, it would have been called a continent. So now it's called a subcontinent
Right.
because it's technically an island that's ramming itself into another continent.
That
Yeah,
sounds
I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
That's
we
why
had
they call it a
range.
subcontinent, and that's also why you have the Himalayas.
Exactly.
This subcontinent.
So we're now talking about we've gone from
Geography.
politics to culture to now we're talking about geography.
In
Yeah.
And
India, India
tectonics.
is an
Geography is
inferior
just-
continent. It is a subcontinent.
Someone needs to make that meme of how there's the whole demography is destiny, geography is destiny.
No,
Oh, yeah.
It's called Jared
Figured.
Diamond.
Destiny.
Well, Jared Diamond. That's his whole thing.
Destiny.
Jared Diamond's whole thing is geography is destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Ever heard of
That's what
guns,
it says?
germs, and steels?
Everyone's heard
Steals?
that book.
Oh,
I've never read it though.
I mean, I have it on my shelf. I just haven't gotten around to reading it. God, I like Naked Ape a lot, but I feel like if he were to hear this live stream and he were to meet me, he would try to literally hunt me down and kill me with all the guns that he has that he keeps talking about, because he really hates that book. Now, I want to be. I'm kind of more interested in the book and how societies haven't succeeded because of their geography. I think that's more interesting to me, honestly, because the thing that led him to that was the fact that the Fiji Island that he was on a lot to study birds.
Mm-hmm.
It was just completely. It could not be used to make like a proper empire,
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, though, is that Jared Diamond is probably a bit too. He presents a pretty cynical worldview, as if the ideas of the people that come from those, I guess, lucky geographic regions, lucky quotation marks on it, that suddenly ideology and the meanings that come from those kind of societies don't mean as much. I mean. They mean everything, really.
It's almost like when you start having a deterministic worldview. It's like, well, they have this, so they're destined to be this way. It's like
I feel like that's kind of why there's like this whole cuckoldry kind of society thing going on, because people just think that because it almost feels like destiny for Europe and America to, and I guess to a lesser extent Australia, but we're not going to talk about those disgusting backwater people.
Oh boy.
Anyway,
in Canada.
Anyway,
in
but
Canada?
Tasmania, Gee, that's a bit harsh.
Jesus Christ, I'm kidding. Anyway, there you go.
Use the Lord's name in vain.
Anyway,
Goodness.
but shit. What was I gonna say? Well, it basically, people feel like they can shoot themselves in the foot and be okay with it, you know? Because it's like, oh, it's okay. We'll survive. You know, the Cold War, so we're gonna survive, right?
Well, I think the idea is
we don't care if we take.
It's
Sorry,
like we're coming into it's like I don't care if like you know, in the long term the U.S. economy is still going to be really good, or it's like, oh, you know, just the global economy and growth rates. It's like, I don't care. Like look, I care about like the actual welfare and well-being of people and the preservation of like culture. I'm not a materialist.
Yeah, not all truth fits in a data point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, even Friedman said that, for God's sakes.
I will say.
Like this. Friedman was the guy who said that there should be no government oversight on people who are going to kill themselves, but it's the responsibility of society to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, if that doesn't place more responsibility on people from a cultural perspective, that they should, you know, fight for themselves and not be completely materialistic, I don't know what the hell is, you know?
Yeah.
If Milton Friedman, that guy, is arguing for that, I mean, shit. These neoliberals, they're delusional, I swear to God.
The thing is, like, this is the question I have: is like, is the system we have right now sustainable or not?
Oh, not what it's become.
And the thing is, like,
no.
But the thing is, like, is the rate of technology going to actually be able to save it, in that sense that, like, in 20, 30 years, are we going to be able to, like, basically avert any resource shortage? Because I still think the idea of peak oil is going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Can I actually try to answer
that please.
question? Because I took an economics class where one of the models we studied showed that technological growth is entirely dependent on population growth. So even from the old see you, Zemi. So even from the models that they'll teach you in college that depend a lot on sort of a neoliberal ideology, will tell you that population growth is necessary for technological growth. So we can't even bank on technological growth solving all our problems, when in the developed world we are seeing shockingly low birth rates, which we have to make up with mass immigration. That's not going to pan out in the long run.
No, it's not.
They don't have to rely on it.
I mean, yeah, but again, there is the acceptance. This is an understandable thing. If I'm an elite if I'm either like a CEO of a massive corporation, or like, you know, a giant, you know, an EU bureaucrat in the head of the EU, and I'm looking at Europe, it's like, okay, they have a low birth rate. Even if we did everything we possibly could, and even if we figure out some way where we can incentivize people to have enough children, the native population to have enough children that meets either meets or is above replacement rate. The problem is that you have to spend a huge amount of money through the welfare state to take care of and educate these people through education as well, and it takes about 20 years for them to actually become economically useful. Whereas you could just grab a random, well, actually, even though, and like, so it's like, in theory then, with mass immigration, it's like, okay, these people these are pre-made humans ready to go. We can just bring them in, and all we have to do is like let them work. But the problem is, of course, all these migrants coming in, almost, you know, huge amount of them can't even read.
Yeah, humans
they can't find jobs. It's like it's like, yeah, they're the right age. They're you know, it's like they're a perfect age for people, for, you know, a young, you know, 20 to 30-year-old male that's healthy. Okay, that's prime. That's a perfect age to be productive. But the problem is that they don't have any skills or any education.
I think you're giving. I think you gave too much credit by saying that they're ready to made humans. Human being the word that's. I think you're going over a bit of a line here.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm kidding. No, but they are kind of. They are admittedly all black sheep. The migrants will say this. The people in Syria will say this. That all the people going to Europe right now are a bunch of black sheep of their society. Because even despite the war, the people who are actually like intelligent enough and have enough skills, they're not going to Europe. They're waiting out the war.
Or
That's
they're going
the
to go to
truth.
the U.S. Or they're going to spend the money to get to America.
Yeah, they'd spend the
Yeah.
money to get there.
But-
you know.
Although the thing is, a lot of the male migrants, they can't be that poor because considering the fact that they have iPhones.
Those are called first world gifts.
Mhm. But yeah,
iPhones are a positive right,
you know,
Fritz.
I actually thought about this for a bit. It's like maybe Macron could be somewhat good in the end, in the sense of this. It's like he's more pro free market, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say if it weren't for the migrant crisis, I probably would have liked Macron a little bit more.
But
Actually, no, I would have liked Macron a little bit more if it weren't for the migrant crisis and the fact that he has 3 mothers that he subjects himself to: his birth mother, his
Merkel.
wife, and Merkel.
No, I was going to say this is like a really easy solution to the migrant crisis, to mass immigration, is to end the welfare state.
That's what I was gonna say. If you just allow Europe to no longer be this middle class continent all throughout, if you let some poor people exist, you will have you'll probably have a better society overall.
Or how about this? Well, only citizens can. You don't get any welfare benefits until you become a citizen.
Oh yeah, that's really stupid.
What?
That's not even a thing. Like that's dumb.
Wait, the idea is dumb, or that they don't even
No,
have
that-
that?
The idea is dumb that they don't even have that rule that if you're
Okay.
if you're a non-citizen that you don't get welfare benefits. That's so dumb. Prussia had like the first welfare state, and I bet that they at least have that. At least had that.
They didn't even have
somewhere
it. Yeah, you didn't. Well, first off, they didn't have millions of Africans coming towards them. It's
I
like,
know,
oh,
I know. The welfare state was there to drive off the socialists. I know.
I know.
I like Bismarck a lot.
I like. I think actually, well, my controversial opinion is I think the Kaiser may have actually been in the right in sacking him when he did.
Probably. It's just that no one was able to replace him with any sort of knowledge of how to run Europe following the unification of Germany.
The thing though is, when people criticize Kaiser Wilhelm, the biggest problem is like, okay, let's say it's in May 1914, Kaiser Wilhelm has a heart attack and dies.
Yes.
Here's how he would be remembered. Here's how he would essentially be remembered. He'd be remembered as the guy who kept Germany at peace for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
He helped continue the peace after, who helped father the German Navy, who helped expand Germany's colonial empire, who helped do welfare and social reforms that helped the poor and get rid of child labor, and who basically oversaw Germany continually being an economic and technological giant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not bad.
I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that the people under him didn't know what the hell to do in the advent of war. And
I think
I'm not saying that that's Kaiser Wilhelm's fault.
No, I think you're right on that in the sense that but it's not just the Germans. Essentially,
I think that
all of those aristocrats had no idea what they were doing.
I think that the people who really exacerbated World War I were the French because they were so hell-bent on vengeance.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing is I think even it was exacerbated they wanted so much revenge. That's why they allied with the Russians. And then the Russians, because they wanted Pan-Slavism, we'll make everything Russian now, supported Serbia without any benefit to them. And the thing is, I think the stupidest decision though is Britain's decision to enter the war. It's like, why are we entering the war? To defend Belgium. That treaty happened almost 100 years ago, and entering this war benefits us nothing. Yeah. Literally, the Germans do not want war with us. There was no reason for us to go to war. We're still going to do it.
Well, both England and Germany's natural enemy is the French.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes...
I actually think the best... If it wasn't for the French being so stubborn about Alsace-Lothringen, to use the actual name for it, is... I think the best alliance would have been Germany and France and Austria. Germany, France, Austria would have an excellent alliance.
That would have. Yeah.
They actually almost could have done it if it wasn't for British during the Boer War. The Kaiser and most Europeans were sympathetic to the Boers, but then the Kaiser got chastised by Queen Victoria and he was bullied by the British into and embarrassed by the British into like backing out of the alliance. Admittedly, I'll concede this. If he had a bit more of a spine and relied a little less on familial politics, he could have essentially made the best alliance ever. Basically, do something even Bismarck couldn't have dreamed of in getting alliance on Central and Western Europe with the French, just against England. Instead of trying to isolate France, isolate England.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Bismarck would have never pulled that off, really.
Okay. In any case, I think we can wrap up. We've been talking for about 2.5 hours, so I think this was a good stream, and I think it would help get a couple more people interested in this community. I wish you and American Vic and British Inquisition all the best of luck in making videos. I think it'd be great. We can talk for a little bit after we end the stream, but anything else anybody wants to talk about before we go offline?
I'm good.
Okay. See you, everybody. Thanks for coming on.